Lee Se-hoon spent his entire life forging weapons for humanity's greatest warriors fighting against the 6 demon gods, but the world eventually collapsed with those same warriors using their dying breath to call him a dead weight. That was the exact moment his god-tier ability to forge divine weapons from human bonds awakened. He regresses back to Babel Academy with 31 years of master blacksmith experience packed into a young body, determined to forge a future where the world never ends. However, before any of this, alright, so the world is literally on fire. We open on our hero, just sitting in the rubble of a dead city with his sword planted in the ground like a tombstone. You can just tell he's hit his absolute limit after a war that wiped out civilization. Our boy, Lee Se-hoon, is looking rough. He's covered in blood, barely standing and just cursing his life. Even for a hero, sometimes all you can do is swear. And now we meet the legendary jerks. First up is Mad Dog, Yom Seong-ha, your typical hot-headed warrior who is currently bleeding out and looking pretty pathetic. We get these cool stylized shots of the team. First is Mad Dog, all red flames and rage, a guy who only ever fought for his own pleasure. A close-up of Se-hoon's eye reflects the dying, blood-red world. He's just taking in the absolute silence after the battle. The panel pans over the bloody corpses of the other heroes. It's a grim, red-tinted reminder that Se-hoon is officially the last man on Earth. A massive beam of light erupts from the ground, piercing the dark clouds. You know what that means in a manhwa. Some crazy magic is about to happen. He reaches out a bloody hand, a hopeful look on his face as something manifests in the light. The glow is getting brighter and brighter. Se-hoon looks at the colorless ore he pulled from himself and calls it garbage. He's kicking himself for not awakening this power years ago. He brings the hammer down with everything he has left, pouring his soul into the work. This is the most epic crafting session in history. As the seawater finally reaches him, Se-hoon holds the dagger tight. He decides he'd rather go out on his own terms than be drowned by some demon god's magic. He sinks deeper, reflecting on the sound of waves he's heard his whole life. It's like he's finally going home. System alerts explode in his vision. The imagery of armament has manifested. That useless dagger he made had a secret, game-breaking ability all along. He looks around in total confusion, staring at his hands. When the guy mentions an entrance exam, Se-hoon's brain just about short-circuits. The instructor gets in his face, giving him a final warning. Little does this guy know he's yelling at a man who just killed a literal god. Se-hoon stands up straight, looking like a total boss in his blacksmith apron. He's ready to redo his life, but this time, he's doing it his way. And here we go, lore drop time. We get a glimpse of the 6 demon gods, these shadowy nightmares who basically hit the delete button on humanity. These guys did not come to make friends. He looks out at the frozen wasteland and asks the realest question ever, did we even win? Because when there's nothing left to save, victory feels exactly like losing. Next is Explosive Dog, Louise Valent, who's got a major attitude problem, even while dying. She's busy trash-talking Se-hoon, saying he faked being sick to hide from the fight. Then there's Explosive Dog, sparking with blue lightning. She's described as a total narcissist who only cared about her own gain. Looking over the wreckage, someone asks the million-dollar question, is anyone gonna make it? And the answer is looking like a hard no. He struggles to his feet, gasping for air as he realizes even his own gear is failing. Classic. Everything is high maintenance even at the end of the world. He looks at the shattered swords of his teammates and decides to use them as tombstones. It's a bittersweet gesture for a bunch of people he couldn't stand. But then he clutches his chest in pain. It looks like a system awakening is triggering right at the moment of his death. Talk about bad timing. He stares at the empty stone, realizing it has no properties because he had nothing left to give. It's a sad, perfect metaphor for his life. The impact creates a massive pillar of golden light that shoots into the sky. He actually forged something that shouldn't exist. Against a blood-red background, he declares he'll end it with his own hands. Talk about going out with a bang. Floating in the void, he has a revelation. That mysterious sound he always heard was the Sea of Ruin itself. He was connected to the apocalypse from the start. The dagger floats in a digital void, glowing with an intense teal light. This isn't just a weapon, it's a reality-warping cheat code. He's back. He's at the Babel entrance exam 31 years in the past. He's not sure if he's hallucinating or if he actually pulled it off. The shop is full of other cadets, and the instructor threatens to kick Se-hoon out. Se-hoon just casually agrees, completely unfazed. A close-up of his mouth shows a confident, almost predatory smirk. This is the look of a man who knows exactly how to break the game. The final boss of this psycho squad is the demon god of the Sea of Ruin. With that wild white hair and those murder eyes, she looks absolutely unhinged. This is what was left for humanity to fight at the very end. The Tower of Heroes, humanity's last bastion, is just a pile of dirt now. Se-hoon knows that even the legendary guardians didn't make it out of this one. And rounding out the trio is Ice Dog, Amir Singh, who's just as salty. He's accusing Se-hoon of trying to get a free ride because even at the end of the world, people gotta gatekeep. and Ice Dog wraps it up with a chilling ice aesthetic. These three might have been the strongest, but man, were they a toxic mess. Yom Song-ha admits his insides are basically scrambled eggs. He's done, and he knows it. His gloved hand reaches for a blacksmith's tool. Even on death's door, he's going back to the one thing he knows, forging. Sehun takes a deep breath, finally looking at peace. He's ready to face whatever's next. A system notification pops up, and it's doing something insane. It's extracting a bond from Sehun himself. But a blacksmith's got a blacksmith. He raises his hammer one last time to forge something, even if the material is trash. The finished product? A simple, glowing dagger. He's disappointed it doesn't seem to have any special abilities. And he actually does it. He plunges the dagger into his own chest as the waves swallow him. This dude is hardcore. And now come the classic, what if thoughts. What if he'd realized his power sooner? What if he'd handled those three dogs differently? The system confirms it's rewriting his fate based on the imagery he created. His final work is paying off big time. Then he sees it. That same imagery from before he died. It's proof. The weapon he forged from his own soul actually sent him back in time. He grips the hammer on the table, feeling its weight. It's real. He's got 31 years of master-level experience packed into a rookie's body. The panel reveals the young Lee Se-hun, looking sharp and incredibly dangerous. He declares that he's going to change it all, and honestly, I believe him. What a way to start a second life. The narration tells us most of humanity was already drowned in the sea of death she created. It's a full-blown apocalypse and things are looking grim. And the Sea of Ruin is still going, this violent purple ocean just eating what's left of the world. It's like the planet itself is being digested. Sehun finally snaps, reminding these three clowns they'd be dead without the gear he made them. And that's his official title drop, The Last Blacksmith, and he is sick of their disrespect. But despite being total jerks, they were the ones who survived to the end and fought the hardest. We see a giant red dragon looming over them, a reminder of the insane stakes they face. Louise is in the same boat, her heart was literally pierced. The whole squad is checking out. With his last ounce of strength, Sehun raises a glowing hammer. He's not going out without making one last thing. As he walks into the light, he wonders if it's finally his time to go. He's done all he can. The system is glitching out, showing his bond level is literally off the charts. The blue energy around him is going wild. Behind him, a literal apocalypse tsunami from the Sea of Ruin is about to crash down. He's forging in the middle of the end of the world. He laughs to himself as he sinks, calling himself a crazy bastard for worrying about hammering until the very end. He's smiling as the world fades to black. His eye snaps open, glowing with a brilliant golden light. All that regret seems to be triggering something in the weapon he just forged. The ultimate skill, Return to Origin, is released. That's the fancy manhwa way of saying regression time. Baby, time itself is about to get a reboot. He's stunned. His desperate last-second forge actually worked. He's back at the start, and he's the only one who knows what's coming. He realizes that if he starts now, with his full knowledge, the Sea of Ruin might never even happen. He can change everything. Sehun just rests a broken hilt on his shoulder, looking totally over it. He's annoyed that even after killing a god, this cursed sea won't just pack up and leave. Yom Song-ha, of course, can't take the heat. Even with a spear through his shoulder, he's still trying to act tough and yell at Sehun. Sehun looks down at his fallen comrades as one of them throws a final insult, telling him he should have helped them sooner. He manifests a giant glowing blue crystal, the literal essence of his own bondstone. This thing is pulsing with power. And just like that, Sehun wakes up in a bright workshop with some orange-haired kid screaming in his face. He's totally dazed, wondering how he's not dead. He sets the hammer down firmly. The instructor's yelling is just background noise. He's already miles ahead of everyone in this room. But the three dogs are left speechless when Sehun tells them to shut it and asks if they want to go another round. He is done being the nice guy. Sehun just sits back, thinking about how these guys only ever looked out for themselves. He's the only one left, but what does it even matter now? The bond extraction is complete. He's holding this massive, radiant ore like it's his final masterpiece. Suddenly, he hears something. His eyes snap open, and his expression tells us something completely unexpected is about to go down. And we get the skill description, Blacksmith of Bonds. He can extract ore from people he has a bond with, and the better the bond, the better the ore. The skill icon is a glowing, six-winged deity. This is the peak of his power, revealed just as he was about to die. Of course. Alright, so meet Sehun. This is his second shot at life, and he's got one single mission, get into the legendary Babel Academy. You can just see that look in his eyes. He is not here to play games. The professor is locked on, probably thinking, what kind of monster just walked into my exam? He's seen talent before, but this is a whole other level. The precision is just insane. This isn't just talent, it's the kind of skill that takes decades to build, all packed into this one kid. He rears back for one final, powerful strike. Everyone knows if he submits this, he's in, no questions asked. He calmly announces he won't submit subpar work. He's not just here to pass, he's here to set a new standard. The professor's just staring, trying to figure out if Sehun is a genius or just plain crazy, and Sehun, cool as a cucumber, just asks for a do-over. Sehun just looks back at the professor, not even breaking a sweat after all that drama. He gets back into position, ready for the speedrun of a lifetime. The clock is ticking. Flames just explode from the forge. He knows he's on the clock and his body is weak, so he's gotta go all out. He's moving in a blur, a storm of efficient, powerful movements that leaves everyone stunned. But the professor steps in, cool and collected, and tells them all to stand down and watch H. This technique is nuts because it lets you get max heat with low mana, but the control you need is basically impossible. Sehun is just showing off at this point. The sound of his hammer rings out again. Some people are still whispering, thinking he's all flash and no substance. The blade is taking its final form, a beautiful glowing work of art. He's gripping the hammer so tight his hand starts bleeding. Now, that is what I call dedication. He is pushing his body way past its breaking point, and every strike is shaking the entire room. 3 minutes on the clock. He's on the final sharpening, his movements still precise despite the absolute exhaustion. And the results are in. A system window pops up, 5-colored fire blade, a high-grade weapon. He even unlocked a new skill, Artisan of Flames. Assistant Han and the professor are just standing there, utterly speechless. Nobody saw this coming. Next thing you know, Sehun's in the professor's office, and the vibe is super intense. Then the professor tells him straight up, "This place isn't good enough for you, you should withdraw and go somewhere better." He remembers that in his original timeline, this entire department gets abolished in 8 years for being garbage. He declares that Babel will become the best in the world, and the reason? Because he is here now. Now that is how you start a Second Life Chath 301 panel.png. The academy looks like a palace, but Sehun is not impressed. He looks the professor dead in the eye and tells him he's wrong. He gets right to it, hammer high, ready to forge a masterpiece. This ain't just an exam for him, my guy is here to make a statement. Every single strike is perfect. That ringing sound? Bro, to a blacksmith that's a symphony. The whole room starts whispering as they realize what's happening. Everyone else might as well just pack up and go home, because they're witnessing a living legend at work. And then, bam! He shatters his own masterpiece into a million pieces. The shock on everyone's faces is just priceless. Assistant Han absolutely loses it, screaming about disrespect. This guy has no idea what kind of genius he's dealing with. The assistant is still yapping, but Sehun has completely tuned him out. His mind is already on the next creation. The professor hits him with the reality check. You've only got 40 minutes left, but Sehun just gives a nod, totally unfazed. The professor just crosses his arms like, "Alright kid, show me what you got." He knows he needs a trump card to make this happen in time. Look at that glow on his face. This is serious business. The other students are whispering, probably thinking, is this guy trying to blow us all up? He tells Han to stop panicking and actually look at the flames. There's a pattern to the madness. And the forge doesn't explode. The room goes from, he's crazy to, he's a damn genius. They're all saying he'll never finish in time, but Sehun ain't got time for haters. The rainbow-colored mana is swirling inside the steel as he works it. This isn't just a sword, it's a masterpiece in the making. He refuses to waste a single second. Every drop of blood and sweat is being sacrificed for this blade. He looks completely wrecked, but that fire in his eyes is still burning bright as ever. He will finish this. 1 minute left. The blade is glowing with a brilliant light as he applies the finishing touches. The appraisal window says it all. This thing isn't just a pass, it's a certified masterpiece. Sehun just casually tells them to check the info window if they're confused. The absolute coldest mic drop I've ever seen. The professor drops a bombshell, asking if that sword was really worth submitting. He's testing him, seeing how deep his ambition goes. He explains that Babel's refining department is a joke, a sinking ship, and he's just trying to save Sehun's future career. Back then, a rival school called Vulcan Academy became the undisputed #1. And watching from the sidelines is Professor Kim In-keol. He can already tell this kid is built different, and you could just feel the tension cranking up. And the professor is just blown away. He knows that seemingly slow rhythm is actually flawless, not a single wasted motion. A true masterclass. They can't believe the quality of the blade he's making. And Sehun, he's locked in, fully aware he's crafting something special. Sehun just smirks at the broken shards and calls it trash. Dude, your standards are so high they're in orbit. And in a total shocker, the professor agrees. He tells the assistant to get more materials. He's hooked now, he needs to see this through. He glances at the broken pieces, and the professor asks if he's sure about this. And then Sehun's eyes literally ignite with fire as he taps into some insane high-level mana technique. Everyone else is just standing there completely confused. They've never seen a forging technique like this in their lives. A huge, multicolored flare erupts from the forge. It looks like a magical nuke is about to go off with Sehun at ground zero. This isn't an accident, it's a legendary technique called the five-colored fire demon, designed for insane, concentrated heat. The ingot is glowing with this weird, powerful energy. You can literally see the mana being forced into the metal. Another massive clang echoes through the workshop, sparks flying everywhere as he hammers away. He's pouring sweat now, his breath getting heavy, his teenage body is really starting to feel the strain. Just as the timer hits 0, the proctor yells, "Stop!" What a buzzer beater. The stats are just ridiculous. Sehun didn't just pass the test, he completely shattered the entire grading curve. The assistant finally snaps out of it and screams that it's a pass, completely changing his tune now that he's seen Sehun's power. Sehun doesn't even flinch. He's not looking at him like a student, he looks like an equal. Sehun just stays quiet. Little does the professor know, he already knows all this because he's from the future. But not this time. Sehun is here to flip the script and rewrite history itself. Remember that loudmouth assistant from before? Yeah, his jaw is on the floor now. It's real quiet when the dude you were dissing is literally forging a miracle. Assistant Han tries to argue, but the professor shuts him down hard. Rules don't matter when you're watching history being made. But that gay says everything. Sehun is locked in and won't accept anything but the absolute best his new body can produce. Assistant Han starts freaking out, realizing Sehun is pouring raw mana directly into the ignition stones. One wrong move and kaboom! The assistants are screaming for fire extinguishers, thinking the whole building's about to go up in flames. It's total chaos. The stones are creating a literal inferno, but Sehun is just standing there like he's the king of hell. The professor finally gets it. He used the stones to supercharge the heat and change the metal itself, all to save time. And get this, he's smiling. This dude is having the time of his life under all this pressure. He brings the hammer down so hard the floor actually cracks beneath him. He's putting his soul into this. Sehun lets out a huge sigh of relief, looking like he's about to collapse. He left every last ounce of energy on that anvil. But the professor tells him to shut it. He's way more interested in the prodigy he just discovered than some loudmouth assistant. He gives a straight, honest answer. For his current body, yes, it was the best he could possibly do. The professor is leaning in, completely mesmerized. He knows a prodigy when he sees one, and Sehun is the real deal. So the assistant scurries off, totally flustered. Ah, you just love to see it. He straight up says he couldn't submit that first sword. If it's not perfect, it doesn't leave his forge. That's the blacksmith's code. It's a brilliant move, but with only 30 minutes left, he's still cutting it insanely close. And then his mana just gives out. The pain hits his arm like a truck, but he's not stopping for anything. His hand is shaking so bad he can't even make a fist. That's the price of genius. The professor sees he's still not satisfied and realizes this kid's standards are on a completely different planet. He lets out a snarl, furious at his own physical limits, but pure willpower is the only thing driving him now. We get a serious close-up on Professor Kim In-keol's eye. You can tell he is sizing this kid up, and the intensity just went through the roof. The professor explains that the top 2 students from every department have to face off in another exam. Only one person from that elite group gets to be number 1. The narration notes that dozens of departments are all tangled together. It's a massive, complicated system that Sehun plans to conquer. Kim In-keol is gripping his own hand, clearly conflicted about what to say next. Kim In-keol is practically pleading at this point, insisting Vulcan is the best path. He's trying to be a good mentor here. With a confident grin, Sehun repeats his vow. Babel will become the best simply because he's there. The professor stands up and offers a handshake, officially welcoming Sehun. He's basically acknowledging Sehun as an equal. Sehun has a smile that says, all according to plan, as a system window pops up. He's successfully established a connection with Professor Kim In-keol. The system identifies the loot, affinity fire, infused iron. It's a high-rank item, a great start. The scene shifts to a quiet street at night. A nice peaceful moment after that high-stakes meeting. Sehun reflects on his affinity extraction skill, which lets him pull out minerals that didn't even exist before. It's a total game changer. He lets out a long sigh. He admits things are disappointing, but it's a small price to pay for a second chance at life. We get a glimpse of the apocalypse he's trying to prevent, with the 6 great demon gods looming over a destroyed planet. This is the future he's fighting to rewrite. Sehun sits up, focused. Phase 1 of the plan, entering Babel Academy, is officially complete. Fast forward 1 week, and we're at Babel Academy. The place looks even more intimidating up close. Sehun is wandering the halls, totally lost and cursing under his breath. Even a regressor can't beat bad school navigation. We get a wide view of the office. Sehun stands there looking like he's about to be interrogated. Another official is sitting nearby, checking his watch. He reminds everyone there are still 10 minutes left. Michael Warmut stares Sehun down, trying to intimidate him, but it's just not working. We see a close-up of someone's legs as they walk into the room with confidence. The atmosphere shifts instantly. The vice dean's eyes go wide. He mutters about who that person is, clearly shaken. Behold Ryu Unha, the dean of Babel's Borsippa faculty. With her long red hair and commanding presence, she looks like an absolute elite. He drops the ultimate truth bomb. Vulcan Academy isn't the best. Babel is because he's going there, and he's going to drag it to the top himself. The professor looks genuinely impressed, or maybe just shocked by the sheer audacity of this rookie. He's definitely listening now. We get a cool graphic showing Babel's 3 main faculties. It looks like a high-tier RPG menu. A golden frame highlights the ultimate goal, being the top of the faculty. This isn't just about grades, it's about absolute prestige. He looks Sehun dead in the eye, dropping the professor act to speak as a senior blacksmith. He's about to give some real talk. Sehun just smirks, thinking that Kim In-kyul is actually a decent guy. He appreciates that the professor is putting a student's future ahead of his own department. Kim In-kyul's mouth twitches into a smirk of his own. He calls Sehun's words arrogant, but you can tell he's starting to like it. The 2 blacksmiths lock hands in a firm grip. This is the moment their fates and their system connections become intertwined. The system confirms the link is now level 1. Blue energy sparks as the magic takes hold. We get the item description, and it's a metal that literally contains flames. It's a blacksmith's dream material. Sehun is back in his room, staring at the small stone he just extracted. He's got a look on his face that says he can work with this. He looks a bit frustrated though. The connection level is still too low to get the really good stuff. He needs to deepen these bonds. A close-up on his sharp eyes shows him telling himself not to get impatient. He's playing the long game. The demon gods were a nightmare, and their plan for total destruction was nearly complete. Suddenly, the air around him crackles with blue energy. He looks surprised, wondering what's happening. He keeps walking down the sterile hallway, trying to find his class. A hand taps rhythmically on a desk. The person says he seems relaxed, which is never a good sign. The vice dean retorts that it's not about the time, but the attitude. He's clearly not a fan of Sehun's casual vibe. A close-up on Michael's intense eyes shows he's someone who values hierarchy and respect above all else. Sehun and Michael both turn their heads. Michael looks like he was wondering when this person would finally show up. Sehun matches his surprised expression. Even he didn't expect this guest. And we're back to chibi style. Sehun is having a literal mental breakdown with question marks over his head. Guess he wasn't as prepared for this as he thought. This is about to get interesting. The 2 are locked in a standoff. Kim In-kyul asks if Sehun really thinks he can become the top student of the entire freshman class. First is the combat faculty for the heavy hitters, then the support faculty for the healers and buffers. We see a majestic figure representing the peak of Babel's talent. Reaching this level means you're recognized as the best of the best. The professor warns him that even if he becomes the top student, succeeding as a blacksmith at Babel is a nightmare. He once again begs him to go to Vulcan Academy for his own good. A close-up on Sehun's determined eyes shows him doubling down. He doesn't care about the department's reputation because he's the one who's going to change it. He slams his hand on the table, but the vibe is positive now. He admits that for some reason he doesn't hate that level of confidence at all. Sehun's eyes glow as he starts extracting affinity. He's literally pulling the essence of the professor's blacksmithing skill into a physical form. This skill is broken. He holds the glowing fire, infused iron, noting it's a bit on the small side. He's already thinking about how to maximize its potential. He checks his own stats, and yeah, they're pretty rough. Compared to other freshmen, his current stats are absolute garbage. Sehun's look turns deadly serious as he thinks about the pandemonium bastards. He's got plenty of time to build his strength and crush them before they destroy the world. He knows he can't be picky about his methods. He's currently on the hunt for a tool to help him remember all the details of the future. His eye glows as the system reacts. Something big is triggering. He finally stops in front of a door labeled Refining Room 3 and lets out a sigh of relief. Meet Michael Warmut, the vice dean. He's got that slick blonde hair and a look that says he's way too important for this meeting. Sehun stands there, completely unfazed. We learn the refining department is not only in bad shape but also on bad terms with the higher-ups. The silence in the room is deafening as they wait for Sehun to react. A tall figure is seen sitting in a chair at the end of a long hallway. The perspective makes them look like a true powerhouse. Kim In-kyul leans back, challenging him. He asks Sehun if he even understands the insane process required to become the top freshman at a place like Babel. The graphic shows just how intricate these departments are. They're the foundation of the Academy's power. The text hammers it home. This is top-tier talent, the kind of recognition that sets you up for life. A small, glowing piece of ore manifests between their hands. Sehun's unique ability is at work, and he just scored some high-quality materials. The system notification pops up. His connection level has hit LV1. This is the milestone he was waiting for. He opens the door and is greeted by a voice calling his name. Time to see what the faculty has in store for him. Sehun glances sideways, finally understanding why Professor Kim told him to go to another school. This place is a political minefield. Michael leans his head on his hand, looking bored. Sehun just gives a confused look, as if he has no idea why everyone is so tense. And finally, we see the technical faculty. This is where the blacksmiths live, and it's the path Sehun is walking. And boom, a new skill called affinity engraving has been added. This blacksmith just got a major upgrade. But Chibi Sehun is having a moment, wondering what this guy's problem is. He finds it hilarious that he's being treated like a brat after everything he's been through. Sehun is deep in thought, remembering his past life where he briefly worked at Babel. He's trying to piece together how the timeline has shifted. Her skill is literally to devour weapons to boost her own power, which is metal as hell. Turns out she was one of Sehun's regular customers before he regressed. Sehun stands over her in the rain, looking like the only anchor in her chaotic world. It's a somber moment between a master blacksmith and his most tragic customer. A voice calls out his name, snapping him out of those dark memories. Kim In-kil clenches his fist, and a ball of pure fire ignites in his palm. He's showing off the exact kind of mastery these students need. Up on the judging platform, Vice Dean Michael and Dean Ryu Eun-ha are watching like hawks. The pressure is on. Sehun stays calm, tying his apron. He's thinking about the alchemical smelting rule, and you can tell he's already planning a move no one expects. Of course, it's Hans Barmut, leaning against his table with a condescending smirk. He asks if there's anyone else even worth competing with. Chibi Sehun realizes the connection. Hans is the Vice Dean's son. No wonder the kid acts like he owns the place. He's the ultimate nepo baby. Hans is bragging internally about being born into a prestigious family of alchemists. He claims his mana pool is already on par with a second year. Kim In-kil looks skeptical, noting that water attribute mana is tricky to smelt with fire. He's wondering if the kid is being overambitious. Hans starts the process, and blue lightning erupts from the stones. The officials are shocked he's pulling this off so quickly. Michael and Hans share a look of pure satisfaction while Kim In-kil fumes. He calls Michael a sly old snake for hijacking the exam. Michael thinks Sehun is an idiot for picking fire attribute ores. He assumes the kid is just being prideful with no plan. Hans turns back to his own work, smirking. He thinks Sehun just handed him the victory. Sehun is suddenly engulfed in a pillar of golden flames. The system explains he can now wear and use affinity stones directly on his body. Hans tries to play it cool, calling it a cheap trick, but you can see the sweat on his face. He's definitely starting to feel the heat. The wide shot shows Sehun glowing like a mini sun. Every eye in the building is locked on him now. Hans is looking at Sehun with wide eyes, sweating buckets. He's terrified that the feedback from Sehun's massive mana will ruin his own work. Hans is literally blown back by the force, shouting about the insane firepower. He's completely lost control of his own process. The system alerts start popping off, confirming the weapon crafting is complete. Congratulations, the weapon Hwajiokjo has been created. The stats for HWAJHHO are revealed. It's a rare rank weapon that amplifies fire mana and even casts the wildfire skill. Vice Dean Michael gets a huge shock, realizing his son's mana is the one starting to fail. The tables have turned in the worst way. A massive blue explosion rocks the entire building. Hans just learned a very painful, very public lesson about hubris. And Sehun, he just broke the entire exam. He stares at the dean, realizing the sharp, professional woman is the one in charge. He definitely didn't expect the legendary weapon eater to be the dean. The scene shifts to a dark flashback of her slumped against a wall in the pouring rain. This shot just screams heavy trauma. The rain mixes with her tears as she hits rock bottom. This is a side of the powerful dean that nobody in this timeline would ever believe. The shout is louder this time. Our boy was straight up daydreaming during a high-stakes exam explanation. He lays down the law. They must craft using only alchemical smelting. No hammers, no anvils, just pure mana manipulation. Kim In-kil throws his arm out wide, signaling the start. He yells for them to begin, and the energy in the room shifts. He stands over his workspace when a voice asks if just staring at the materials will increase his mana. Someone's already talking trash. Professor Kim immediately shuts that down, telling Hans to knock it off. Hans just looks annoyed that he got called out. Hans is still smirking, oblivious to the fact that Sehun thinks he's a total joke. He grabs a handful of expensive blue mana stones. He's convinced this exam is already decided. Michael Barmut scoffs, saying those concerns are a thing of the past. He claims modern methods have evolved beyond the professor's old-school knowledge. Michael is gloating, thinking no one could ever match his son's talent. He's already celebrating the win. Dean Ryu Eun-ha leans in, her sharp eyes finally focusing on something interesting. She whispers, "This should do, and you know the real show is about to start." Hans is glaring at him, genuinely bothered by Sehun's choice. He doesn't like it when the loser acts like they know what they're doing. A close-up of Sehun's eye shows a spark of orange fire as he activates his true power. He's about to show these guys what a real blacksmith from the future looks like. The system confirms it's equipping Hwaham iron to his right arm. His arm glows with an intense molten heat as the stone fuses with his mana. Sehun doesn't even respond, he just channels an insane amount of fire mana, and the temperature in the room skyrockets. Vice-Dean Michael is trying to cope, thinking it's basic knowledge that imbuing mana like this is foolish. A massive explosion of blue and white mana fills the screen. A magical shockwave just rocked the entire workshop. But through the smoke, a pillar of golden light emerges. A perfectly forged blade is floating in the air, glowing with divine energy. The judges are frozen in their seats, looking like they just saw a ghost. Even the Vice Dean is speechless as his rigged plan falls apart. Hans is standing there with his jaw on the floor, unable to believe Sehun succeeded that fast. His whole world just got turned upside down. Kim In-kyul screams for Hans to stop before he causes a massive accident. We get a peek at Ryu Eunha's prime. She's an S-rank hero known as the Weapon Eater. Surrounded by intense flames, you can see exactly why she was a top-tier powerhouse. She looks absolutely broken, whispering about how she regrets eating something, or maybe someone. That haunted look says the price of her power was way too high. Sehun's expression is grim. He knows exactly what's coming for her if he doesn't use this second chance to change things. Sehun blinks and quickly responds, trying to act like he wasn't just reliving the apocalypse. Seeing the dean really threw him for a loop. The professor gestures to the massive piles of supplies. They have everything they need, but picking the right stuff is the first test. The exam begins. Both Hans and Sehun are locked in, and the rivalry is palpable. Sehun does a double take. He's not used to people being this bold when he's focused. The professor stands between them, making sure the rules are followed. A close-up of Hans's face captures that classic villainous lackey smile. He thinks he's already won because of his name. He holds up a stone with a triumphant look, declaring the top spot is his. The overconfidence is just asking for a reality check. He brags that his son is aiming for a record-breaking 30-minute smelting time. He's sitting there looking like the ultimate proud, annoying dad. Kim In-kyul looks stunned, realizing the truth. This whole exam was rigged to favor Hans's specific strengths. The time limit and materials were a setup. Sehun finally moves, picking up some vibrant red materials that look like crystalline flowers. Hans looks over, shocked. Sehun gets into his stance, ready to ignite his mana. Hans is wondering if Sehun chose fire ores just to spite him. The system kicks in with a neon blue flash as the skill Affinity Engraving is activated. This isn't regular smelting anymore, it's high-level magic. He looks like a total monster, his arm literally wreathed in fire. Hans looks over like, what the heck is that? With a look of absolute focus, he floats the ores in front of him, bathing them in a vortex of golden heat. He thinks forcing the mana like that will make it go berserk. He's basically praying for Sehun to blow himself up. Sehun stands there calmly as the system notifies him. The iron has been unequipped. He's finished his masterpiece without even breaking a sweat. The weapon is revealed, a beautiful black katana with a red hilt, pulsating with powerful fire energy. This thing is a masterwork, plain and simple. He's still trying to cope, insisting it's impossible and that the mana should have gone berserk. He's literally glitching out from the shock. But it's too late. Hans is engulfed in a chaotic storm of blue lightning. He's lost all control. He stands there in the ruined streets with a massive sword on his back, looking like a lone guardian. This shot perfectly captures the heavy burden of knowledge he's carrying. The examiner moves to the front, ready to explain the test. The tension is thick. Barrels are overflowing with high-grade ores. This buffet of materials is a test of their blacksmith knowledge. Hans gives a mocking little bow with zero sincerity. Sehun just watches him, finally putting a name to the arrogant face, Hans Barmut. The narration highlights the massive gap. Sehun is a commoner with no mana, while Hans is looking down on him from his pedestal. The judges note he's picked lazulite and Heenam Jade, both high mana, water attribute materials. A bold choice. Michael has this sinister, knowing smirk. He's clearly rigged the game in his son's favor and is just waiting to rub it in everyone's faces. Sehun walks back to his station with his materials, moving with total purpose and ignoring the stunned glares. The ores glow with a warm, golden light as Sehun begins. Michael's internal monologue is just two words, stupid fool. The stones are spinning wildly, their surfaces melting and fusing perfectly. This is advanced crafting these pros have never seen. A close-up of a smirking mouth shows Sehun knows exactly what's about to happen. The absolute confidence is terrifying. He lets out a long, satisfied breath. The mission was a total, overwhelming success. In his desperation, Hans tries to force his own synthesis, his hands sparking with wild blue electricity. He's wondering if he was wrong about his own talent. A close-up of Hans's terrified eye reveals the true fear he's feeling as the blue light swallows his vision. This is what happens when you let your ego blind you. Professor Kim In-kyul steps up, looking like a total veteran. He announces the exam time is 90 minutes. It's go time. Se-hun gives a confident smirk, his face illuminated by the glowing mana. He's having the time of his life showing these amateurs how a master works. We get a look at Hans Barmut, who's already looking incredibly smug. This dude definitely thinks he's the main character. Alright, back at the exam hall, the sun is setting, and the tension from that explosion is still hanging in the air. Michael Barmut stares at the debris of his son's work, letting out a performative sigh. He's trying to invalidate the results to save his son's pride. Professor Kim isn't having it. He shoots back that they can't overturn an exam that's already finished, pointing out the accident only happened because Hans was being reckless. Michael spins around, demanding to know how a rookie could achieve resonance instantly. He's shouting that it doesn't make any sense, clearly feeling threatened. We get a look at a beautiful blade, emphasizing the philosophy of alchemy forging. The Vice Dean is speechless, refusing to admit he has no idea what Se-hun is talking about. Michael looks smugly satisfied, thinking he's won the argument. Yoonha stares at the blade, her eyes wide with a mix of shock and hunger. She whispers that it's unbelievable, sensing the true power of the forge. Both Michael and Kim In-kyul are standing there with their jaws on the floor. They have no idea how to react to the dean losing her mind over a student's project. The scene shifts to later that afternoon. The craziness of the exam is over, but the consequences are just beginning. Se-hun starts laughing to himself, thinking about how satisfying it was to see Vice Dean Barmut trembling with rage. It's the little things in life. Flashback time. We see a younger Louise Valine, the future Mad Dog, talking about a weapon she bought at Babel that suddenly exploded. Se-hun walks into the sunset, thinking about his goal to help the three dogs. He realizes he won't need to save Louise if he handles things right now. A massive shout echoes through the room as someone asks if they really want Lee Se-hun to be the top student. Michael Barmut tries to be subtle, patronizingly reminding Yoonha that she's new. He's trying to play the veteran card to undermine her. Yoonha stands up, delivering a crushing evaluation. She claims the weapon they saw was likely less than 60% of what Se-hun intended, and that imperfection is what makes him so promising. Chunks of shattered blue mana stones are scattered across the floor, leftovers from Hans Barmut's epic fail. It's a perfect metaphor for his reputation right now. A close-up of a trembling hand shows just how much this loss is stinging. The Vice Dean calls it a loss by default, like the explosion was just a minor oopsie. The Vice Dean looks like he's about to explode, accusing Kim of valuing test results over student well-being. It's a classic low blow to make Kim look like the bad guy. The narration explains the history of alchemy forging. It was a technique for people who couldn't use traditional mana, but Se-hun is taking it to a whole new level. The true essence is finding the root of the ore's core and letting it live. Michael is still trying to lecture Se-hun on the very basics he just mastered. He lets out a nasty laugh, deciding to just label Se-hun's work as a dirty trick. He's convinced a commoner couldn't have this much skill without cheating. He officially calls for Se-hun to be disqualified for cheating and demands a retest. She's literally drooling over the sword. As the weapon eater, she can feel the quality better than anyone, and she's never tasted anything like this. In a hilarious chibi shot, the dean is literally hugging the sword and growling like a dog. She is totally gone for this blade. Se-hun is walking through the plaza, looking like he doesn't have a care in the world. He stops mid-stride as a realization hits him. The name Barmut is finally starting to ring some bells from his future timeline. Louise looks devastated as she explains she got mana burns that ruined her future. She curses the bastard who sold her that faulty gear. He gives a dark, confident smirk that looks a bit predatory. He's found his first target, and he's ready to play the game of fate. The other professors are looking scandalized, whispering that it's going too far. They aren't ready to let a nobody take the top spot. Yoonha just gives him a bored, sidelong glance, completely unimpressed. She's already made up her mind. A close-up of her mouth shows a faint, dangerous smile. She's about to drop a condition that will shut everyone up for good. Vice Dean Michael Barmut is looking incredibly tense, trying to find a way to spin this disaster. He starts rambling about how they need a proper evaluation. Se-hun gives a subtle, knowing smirk. He knows what the Vice Dean is trying to do, and he finds the desperation hilarious. Michael starts walking away, trying to use fake logic to cover his bias. He's trying to frame Se-hun's success as literally impossible to discredit it. Se-hun finally claps back, telling the old man that what he just did will become the global standard in a few years anyway. He calls it a simple method. The disrespect is beautiful. He looks at the rare grade Hwajokcho and scoffs, saying even if you cheat, you should keep it believable. He thinks the weapon is just too good. Suddenly, his expression shifts to confusion as someone walks past him. The atmosphere in the room changes instantly. She snaps out of it and points directly at Se-hun. She's not here to disqualify him, she wants to experience the weapon herself. She starts spinning around with the sword like a crazy person, leaving everyone in a daze. Se-hun is just standing there, probably wondering what kind of school he just enrolled in. He reflects on his work, thinking that while it was good, his fine-tuning is still a bit immature. Even after shocking everyone, this guy is his own harshest critic. He scratches his head, repeating the name Barmut. He knows he's heard it before in connection with something big. Future Sehun listens with a grim expression. He realized her trauma was a total betrayal by someone she should have been able to trust. His final thought is simple. If he keeps Hans Barmut in check, the mad dog will never go astray. He's going to save the future by destroying Hans's career before it even starts. Dean Ryu Unya sits at the head of the table looking incredibly cold. She asks a single sharp question. Are you opposing it? The meeting room is huge, and the tension is palpable. She looks them all dead in the eye and declares that if they still can't accept her decision after a demonstration, Sehun just stands there with a completely neutral expression, watching the old man squirm. The vice dean is clearly trying to stall. Michael tries to play the concerned parent card, suggesting they should void the exam because a student was injured. He just wants a do-over for his son. He keeps marching toward the door, determined to prove what Sehun did was some kind of trick. Sehun is actually shocked by the level of delusion. He's thinking, what the heck is wrong with this guy? The dude is so blinded by arrogance he can't see genius. Dean Ryu Unha steps up to the table where Sehun's blade is resting. Michael looks bewildered, wondering why the big boss is getting involved. Yunha goes full manic, begging Sehun for just one bite. She even asks if she can just lick it once. This woman is officially obsessed, and it's hilarious. He pauses, a serious look crossing his face. However, is coming, and it usually means trouble for someone else. Back in the present, Sehun keeps walking. The gears in his head are turning. The scene shifts to the official Borsipa faculty meeting room. Things are about to get very official and very political. One of the professors starts sweating bullets, quickly backpedaling. Nobody wants to be on Yunha's bad side. Professor Kim In-kyeol speaks up in Sehun's defense, noting that none of the other professors have even seen the materials he used. He points out Sehun's mana control was top tier. The final panel shows the long meeting table with dramatic red text. She will step down as department head. She's betting her entire career on Sehun, and the silence in the room is absolute. This is getting good. Professor Kim In-kyeol looks like he's aged 10 years, rubbing his head in total exhaustion. A close-up shows Unha's hand gripping the hilt of the sword. The silence is deafening as everyone waits for her reaction. The realization hits him like a truck. The blacksmith who left Louise with lifelong trauma was named Barmut. The pieces are all falling into place. Another professor looks skeptical, still trying to find reasons to deny Sehun. A close-up of Kim In-kyeol's eye reveals he's locked on to the situation. He's a veteran, and despite the chaos, he knows exactly what he just witnessed. He narrows his eyes, realizing that Hans Barmut is the one responsible for ruining one of humanity's strongest warriors. This just got personal. Alright, history lesson time. 54 years ago, the heavens dropped the Tower of Heroes on Earth to supercharge human evolution. It's this massive glowing spire, the ultimate endgame dungeon. Meet the Emperor of Ascension, Ludwig Schubert. He's giving the classic, "You are the future" speech while looking like he's already seen 1,000 wars. A close-up on Schubert shows a man who looks dignified, but you know there's a whole lot of power hidden behind that calm face. He's basically the final boss of the good guys. And here we go. Sehun walks onto the field, clutching the sword he forged. He's the top of the technical faculty, and all eyes are on him. The announcer introduces the punching bag for the day, a high-tech combat automaton. This isn't some cheap dummy, it's a real challenge. Representing the fighters is Jake Myers, the top cadet of Akalkuth. He looks like your typical blonde prodigy, oozing confidence. The automaton's sensors lock onto Jake, its red eye flashing. He continues his aerial acrobatics, dodging another swipe with inches to spare. He lands a perfect skid, positioning himself right in the machine's blind spot. The setup is complete. Jake connects with a massive punch right to the center of the machine. The impact is so loud you can practically hear the frame groaning. The force of the impact is so insane it literally cracks the stone floor. The other students are in total disbelief. Sehun is deep in thought, wondering why such a monster only had A rank in his previous timeline. Something must have gone seriously wrong. The camera pans over the mangled remains of the robot. Jake really did a number on it. The crowd goes absolutely ballistic. Taking down a C-rank level threat in one breath is legendary stuff for a freshman. Erika is the eldest daughter of the legendary Inoue family of Japan. She's got that haughty elite vibe down to a science. Suddenly, Erika glances back and Sehun is startled. He wonders if she actually just looked at him specifically. Awkward. She raises a small birdcage, and you can see a dark figure inside. This is definitely not your average support magic. The bird grows in size, becoming a massive shadow that eclipses the sun. It's diving straight for the automaton like a living missile. Sehun thinks it's going to be nearly impossible to pierce that defense. A massive dark slash rips across the arena, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. The giant machine just stands there for a second, totally totaled. You can see the internal circuits fried and glowing as the energy from the strike continues to sizzle through the frame. The crowd is losing their minds, screaming about how she pierced right through a C-rank hero-level defense. No one expected a support student to have that kind of firepower. But you can't have light without shadow. The underworld responded by barfing out pandemonium, a literal swamp of corruption that started turning everything into a nightmare. Sehun is just another face in the crowd, listening to Schubert tell them to be the shield of humanity, a lot for a Monday morning. Sehun isn't exactly a fanboy though. He thinks that while Schubert looks decent, he's actually not all that great in the grand scheme of things. Talk about high standards. The crowd is roaring. Being at the top definitely has its perks, even if it comes with a massive target on your back. The robot's head glows with a menacing red light as it boots up. It looks like it was designed to ruin someone's first day. The arena is a massive circular stage. The two opponents face off while the crowd holds its breath. The announcer screams for the fight to begin, and the match is on. Jake starts dashing around the automaton so fast he's creating afterimages. The robot is just swinging at empty air. Jake gives a sharp, competitive grin. He says, "It's my turn, and you know that robot is about to be scrap metal." He doesn't stop, following up with a quick jab that rattles the machine's sensors. A close-up shows the metal buckling and shards flying everywhere. Jake is sending a message to everyone else on that stage. Jake stands over the wreckage, catching his breath. A close-up on the robot's broken visor shows its glowing eye has finally flickered out. People are cheering Jake's name, confirming his status as the favorite of the year. She carries herself with total elegance. She's not here for a popularity contest, she's here to show off her lineage. Sehun is left wondering what that look was about. He's definitely on her radar now. Inside is a black crow with glowing blue eyes, crackling with mana. It looks like a familiar bound to her family's bloodline. Sehun is genuinely confused, wondering how a bird is going to break through that armor. A close-up on Erika's lips shows her whispering the final command. She's not worried at all. A massive dark slash rips across the arena, leaving a trail of destruction in its wake. This isn't just a simple hit, it's like a magical nuke went off right in the middle of the stadium. The dust settles, and the robot is just gone. There's a massive hole blasted right through its chest. Sehun is sweating now, realizing if he just walks out and shows off some gear, he's going to get laughed at. He needs to do something even more insane. Babel Academy was born right in the middle of that chaos, becoming the world's #1 hero factory. Looking at the campus, you can tell they've got some serious funding. The Emperor wraps up his speech. Sehun watches him, already feeling the weight of the expectations being dumped on them. The announcer takes the mic, looking way too excited. He's ready to bring out the top incoming cadets for a little show and tell. This beast is a brawler model that can supposedly go toe-to-toe with a C-rank hero. It looks ready to crush some skulls. Sehun recognizes the name. Jake is the third son of the famous Myers family of swordsmen, but he went rogue and decided to become a martial artist. The robot lunges with a punch that would probably level a small house. The final blow comes with a surge of mana, Jake's fist glowing as he drives it into the automaton's chest. This is top-tier power. Sehun is genuinely impressed but also confused. He remembers that in the future, Jake died as a mere A rank in his mid-20s. Looking at this potential, that doesn't make any sense. The announcer confirms it's over. Jake definitely stole the show with that one. Jake wipes some sweat off his forehead, totally unfazed. Sehun watches, thinking that whoever has to go next is going to feel an insane amount of pressure. But Sehun remembers her dark fate. She was eventually corrupted into a fiend and executed by her own family. A tragic end for someone so prestigious. Her target is even tougher, a Model 9 armored automaton with 1.5 times the defense. This thing is a literal tank on legs. She gets a cold command to go, her own eye glowing with that same eerie blue light. The crow slams into the robot, but instead of a physical impact, it dissolves into a vortex of blue energy. The dark energy on the ground forms a massive magical seal, swirling with complex runes. Something big is about to manifest. Sehun is left staring in total disbelief, and honestly, can you blame him? He's probably recalculating his entire game plan after seeing that kind of output from a support student. Erika just stands there as the crow returns to her hand. She just one-shotted a tank and looks like she didn't even try. He steps onto the field, clutching his black katana. It's finally his turn, and the blacksmith is ready to show the world what a real weapon can do. The elite of the elite are called to the stage, one from each faculty. You can practically see the sparks of rivalry. Sehun analyzes the machine, noting its lack of weapons. He's already figuring out its attack patterns before the fight even starts. Jake drops into a boxing stance, looking sharp. He's not even using a weapon, which is the ultimate flex against a giant metal robot. Jake doesn't even break a sweat, vaulting right over the robot's head like a gymnast. He's making a C-rank threat look like a turtle. The automaton is completely wrecked, sparks flying as it collapses. This level of talent only comes around once every 10 years. The announcer is literally speechless, stuttering because he can't believe how fast that fight ended. And speaking of pressure, the announcer calls up the top cadet from the support faculty, Erika Inoue. He looks at her, thinking about how she's destined for a life of darkness. Even now, there's something chilling about her calm demeanor. Erika stands calmly before the massive machine, which looms over her like a metal giant. She opens the cage and the crow bursts out, followed by a swirling trail of dark feathers and energy. It's beautiful but terrifying. The automaton enters its defensive stance, trying to tank the incoming mana. Blue lightning sparks from the seal as a giant shadowy figure begins to rise. It looks like a knight from hell. We get a close-up of the damage, and it's brutal. The dark energy carved a hole right through the automaton's reinforced chestplate like it was made of cardboard. Se-hun reflects on his past life, remembering how many of these top students acted like gods just because they were good at school. He's not impressed by titles anymore. The announcer calls up the combat faculty first. Time to see what the muscle of this year's class can do. Se-hun recognizes her instantly. He's not worried about her being a support type because he knows exactly what this girl is capable of. The figure is revealed to be a demonic, winged warrior holding a massive blade. This is the true form of her power, and it's terrifyingly strong. With a single, devastating swing, the Shadow Knight strikes down. The energy release is so massive it fills the entire frame. The announcer calls up the main man himself, Lee Se-hun, to represent the engineering faculty. The crowd is waiting to see what a blacksmith can do after those monster displays. The arena is roaring with excitement. Everyone's wondering if Se-hun can actually top Jake and Erika's crazy performances. The other cadets are losing their minds, unable to believe a freshman crafted a rare-grade weapon. They know they're looking at a total freak of nature. The announcer tries to set up a D-rank level automaton for the demo, but Se-hun just shuts him down with a casual, cold, no. The announcer starts panicking, asking if Se-hun is trying to ruin the whole demonstration. Even the emperor is leaning forward, curious to see what this crazy blacksmith is going to try. He screams for the demonstration to begin, and the crowd erupts. Se-hun gives a confident, well then, looking like he's about to carve a turkey, not a giant robot. This man is just built different. Se-hun lunges forward, a streak of fire heading straight for the automaton's core. The sheer speed is shocking everyone. Se-hun isn't worried though. He knows that if he uses the properties of his fire-infused scabbard, he can store the explosion until he needs it. The automaton just stands there, its armor glowing blue as it braces for impact. It has no idea it's about to be hit by something that shouldn't exist. Jake and Erika are shielding their eyes from the massive flare, completely stunned. They thought they were the main characters, but Se-hun just rewrote the script. Vice Dean Michael Barma looks like he's just seen a ghost. His whole eye candy argument just evaporated along with that robot. The arena floor is literally torn apart, with a massive fissure where the strike landed. This wasn't a win, it was a demolition of the facility. Ryu Eunha walks in, apologizing for being late because she was busy cleaning up the sparring grounds. A pretty humble move for someone in her position. Suddenly, a loud, awkward gurgle comes from her stomach. The atmosphere shifts from professional to hilarious as her hunger reveals itself. Se-hun is left completely stunned. All he can manage is an "excuse me" after that wild one-handy from the faculty head. Emperor Ludwig Schubert watches from his throne, acknowledging this year's freshmen are on another level. Se-hun grips the hilt of his masterpiece, ready to show everyone why he's number one. Vice Dean Michael Barma is watching from the side, salty as hell. He's hoping Se-hun fails so his own son looks better by comparison. He demands they bring out Model 8 instead, fully equipped with armor. This guy is literally asking for the hardest difficulty setting on day one. Suddenly, Professor Kim In-cheol's voice cuts through with a firm, "It is here." He's the only one who knows what Se-hun is capable of. Professor Kim watches from the sidelines with a knowing, proud look. He's got a front row seat to the masterpiece he helped foster. Professor Kim crosses his arms, looking like a proud dad waiting for the beatdown to start. He starts drawing his blade, and fire mana begins to swirl around him like a cyclone. It's a full-on inferno being concentrated into a single point. Jake and Erika are staring with their jaws on the floor, realizing the support guy they look down on is a total monster. He uses his Artisan of Flame skill to inject the raw crimson flame directly back into the scabbard. This is high-level mana management. He triggers the scabbard's unique skill, Wildfire, releasing all that compressed energy in a split second. Se-hun thinks to himself about triggering those 5-colored fire demons. He's going all out with this strike. The announcer is sweating buckets, mentally asking himself what the hell this guy is after seeing his arena get partially vaporized. The announcer is trembling, calling for the construction team to come fix the massive crack in the hall. Se-hun stands and immediately apologizes for wrecking the main hall. He knows he went a bit overboard. A chibi Se-hun is sweating, looking at the legendary weapon eater in total disbelief. I guess even S-rankers get hungry. A system notification pops up confirming an affinity has been established with Ryu Unha. Looks like Sehun just made a very powerful and very hungry new ally. This is going to be fun. Ludwig notes it's been a while since the refining department produced a top student. He's actually worried the pressure might be too much for the kid. He stands there looking cool as a cucumber, his sword resting on his shoulder. He's not here to play games, he's here to make a statement. He's already smirking to himself, convinced he's about to take over the department. The announcer is completely short-circuited, stuttering while the crowd probably goes silent. It's a total power move. Professor Kim walks out, personally delivering the armored automaton. The thing looks like a walking tank. Sehun faces down the metal giant, a tiny figure against a massive wall of armor. It's the ultimate David vs. Goliath setup. Ryu Unha remains as stoic as ever, but you can tell she's locked in. The sword is engulfed in brilliant, multicolored flames. It looks like he's holding a piece of the sun. Michael Barmett is still coping, calling it just eye candy and asking what a kid with no mana can even do. He is the hater of the year. With a glowing yellow eye, he confirms the injection is complete. He's just loaded a nuclear-level round into his scabbard. The text confirms the insanity. Wildfire triggers an absolute explosion of all that compressed mana at once. It's a shaped charge designed to erase anything in front of it. The explosion is absolute, a massive pillar of light and energy that completely swallows the automaton. The armored Model 8 never stood a chance. As the dust settles, we see Sehun standing over the wreckage. The automaton is gone, leaving nothing but a smoldering hole. The demonstration is officially over. Sehun didn't just pass, he shattered expectations and the floor along with them. He mutters that he probably should have held back. Yunha just looks at him, puzzled, asking what he's talking about. She clears her throat, trying to play it cool, though she's clearly dying of embarrassment. Ryu Unha sits nearby, her sharp gaze fixed on the arena. You know she's more interested in the weapon than the kid holding it. We get a quick look at the stats for his sword. Yeah, it's a rare-grade beast, built for serious fire damage. Ryu Unha isn't buying it. She keeps her eyes locked on Sehun, knowing there's more to this blacksmith than meets the eye. The announcer explains that Model 8 can withstand attacks from B-rank heroes, and adding armor is just overkill. He thinks Sehun has a death wish. The armored beast stands ready, looking way more intimidating than any practice dummy so far. The announcer finally gives the signal, looking like he's just resigned to whatever chaos happens next. One of the higher-ups is rooting for him, thinking he better put on a hell of a show. The vibe is absolutely electric. The narration drops some lore. The conflicting fire properties in the blade are a ticking time bomb. If he loses control, he's going to blow himself up. With a satisfying click, Sehun sheathes his sword. Mission accomplished. He just single-handedly saved the entire refining department's reputation. Later on, the clacking of heels echoes in a sterile hallway. Someone important is coming to visit our hero. Sehun is confused too, asking if she didn't call him here to scold him. She drops a bombshell offer, 10 times the market price. Sehun's eyes widen as he realizes she's not kidding. The announcer is sweating buckets, trying to keep up with the sudden change in plans. He lets out a breath, sweating a bit. Even with his future knowledge, pulling that off with his current body was a real workout. Sehun is sitting in an office, waiting. He's probably expecting a lecture about the massive repair bill he just created. She waves it off, saying, "Of course not," while looking a bit flustered. It seems she had a completely different reason for this meeting. She leans in, dead serious, asking if he'll sell her both the 5-colored fire blade and the fire-infused scabbard. The weapon eater has officially found her next meal. System notifications start blowing up in his vision, confirming that a connection with the dean, Ryu Unha, has finally been established after that insane demonstration. Magic sparks between them in a brilliant display of electricity, and the system confirms he's successfully obtained a special grade affinity from the dean herself. The professor walks in looking formal, announcing that the chairman is ready to proceed with the presentation ceremony immediately. Time to go get those rewards. We get a wide shot of the heart of Babel Academy at sunset. The place is absolutely massive, looking more like a royal fortress than a school for heroes. Professor Kim gives him a final pep talk, telling him to be polite in front of the chairman. He notes that the big man generously overlooked the fact that Sehun basically vaporized the auditorium during his demo. This is the Emperor of Ascension, Chairman Ludwig. He looks like the ultimate mentor figure, sitting there with an air of calm, absolute authority. He says he can't quite call them perfect, but they definitely made him look forward to Sehun's future. That's high praise coming from the man at the top. A massive glowing golden orb descends from the ceiling, pulsing with intense divine energy. This is the first of 2 rewards from Chairman Ludwig, and it is blinding. Sehun holds the items, noting that the heavy dark ink is rare, but Dream Ivory is practically a myth. He just scored the ultimate crafting starter pack. Someone reflects on the fact that Sehun is the only one getting 2 rewards. It's an unprecedented move that's going to have the whole faculty talking. The scene shifts to the next morning, showing the main Babel Academy building. It's the calm before whatever storm Sehun is about to brew. The door opens, and Sehun walks in, instantly killing the chatter. He's got that "don't even look at me" aura. Hans is staring at him, sweating, and internally screaming about what's wrong with Sehun's eyes. He can feel the power gap and it's making his ego crumble. Professor Kim stands at the front, ready to turn these rookies into actual blacksmiths. He gets right to the lesson. Professor Kim demonstrates by injecting mana into the alloy, causing it to glow. He explains it's dozens of times more sensitive than normal ores. Sehun looks at his own hand, feeling the seriousness of the man at the front. He respects the professor's dedication. He tells them the best avatars will be displayed in the main building for a week. The competition just spiked to 100%. Sehun holds the alloy, deciding there's no need to hide his power anymore. He's going to show them what a real avatar looks like. A brilliant flash of blue and white light fills the room as Sehun goes all out. The classroom is about to witness something that shouldn't be possible for a freshman, and you just know Hans is about to have another meltdown. Sehun is actually caught off guard, wondering how it happened so fast. In his previous life, he had to practically bribe her with high-level weapons multiple times before she'd even give him the time of day. The loot is revealed to be affinity iron. It's a supreme-grade material that literally devours other iron to generate heat, making it the perfect ingredient for something called mad blood steel. He asks the dean if he can take Sehun now, and you can see she's still a little hung up on that sword. These two are definitely developing an interesting dynamic. They walk through a grand hallway lined with statues of legendary heroes from the past. The level of prestige here is enough to make anyone else sweat, but not our boy. They stop in front of massive, ornate double doors, and Kim warns him that the chairman is on a completely different level than anyone he's met so far. Sehun remembers him from the original timeline, a legendary hero who died during the final war against the demon gods. It's a bittersweet reunion with a man who doesn't even know him yet. Sehun lets out a small, knowing smirk. He knows his work wasn't perfect because his current body is still weak, but he's glad the chairman saw the potential. The second reward is an intricate golden emblem crackling with electricity. Both items look like they belong in a museum for legendary heroes. He gives a confident smirk, thinking that while they'll be hard to handle now, he already has a plan. This is the look of a man about to break the game's crafting system. Chairman Ludwig sits in his dark office, smoking a pipe and watching Sehun leave. He admits he only gave the items because the boys seem to have the capacity to handle them. Inside the classroom, one student is trying to invite Hans to lunch, but the vibe around the Nepo baby is definitely sour after his demo disaster. A close-up on Sehun's face shows his eyes glowing with an intense yellow light as he scans the room. He's not here for social hour. Sehun gives him a sidelong glance that just says, "You're irrelevant." It's a total mental defeat for the vice dean's son. He drags a heavy bag onto the table with a loud thud. He announces they'll be skipping introductions for something more practical. The mana injection creates a swirl of red energy. This stuff is basically a physical lie detector for a blacksmith's talent. The professor explains that while this alloy is useless for combat, it reflects traits you might be unaware of, letting you reflect on yourself. Everyone gets to work. One student is sweating over an alloy that costs over 10 million won. He activates his mana, and the alloy is instantly engulfed in a vortex of red fire. He's not just making a tool, he's pouring his entire history into this metal. He quickly shakes it off and cracks a confident smirk. Regardless of how it happened, having a link with someone this powerful is a massive win for his early game progression. Sehun finishes the process, looking completely satisfied with his new toy. Meanwhile, Unha is still trying to process everything, asking if he's actually planning to sell those masterpieces he made. Yunha turns away and gives a short professional reply that she understands. She's back in work mode, even if she's probably still desperate for more weapons. Sehun just tells him not to worry. He's faced literal demon gods in the apocalypse, and old chairman is a walk in the park by comparison. The chairman notes that Sehun is truly fitting for an apex climber, impressed by how the boy stands his ground without flinching. Most rookies would be shaking in their boots. As a tribute to his talent and effort, Ludwig announces he's giving Sehun 2 special rewards. This is the moment every gamer dreams of, getting a blank check from the final boss. The system descriptions reveal the loot, Heavy Dark NK and Dream Fury. Both are supreme-grade materials that master blacksmiths spend decades searching for. Chairman Ludwig asks if the items suit his liking, while Sehun stares into the glowing ink with predatory focus. The chairman reflects on the old soul vibe Sehun gives off, noting he has a depth even an S-rank can't see through. He knows Sehun isn't your average 18-year-old. Hans Barmut is looking incredibly salty, leaning back with a scowl. He shuts down the lunch invite, claiming he has plans with someone way more important. The classroom goes dead silent as Sehun walks to a seat at the back. He doesn't even spare a glance for Hans. Hans is fuming, cursing the fact that a guy with no background is looking down on him. The Nepo baby rage is real. He reveals the bag is full of projection alloy, the material for their first assignment. It's a high-level metal that reacts directly to mana. In seconds, he manifests a perfect, glowing blade. He tells them an armament pictured in their mind is created this easily. He calls these creations avatars and announces they'll be the students' official self-introductions. It's a show me your soul assignment. Hans manifests a flashy, glowing rapier, thinking his talent is finally going to shine. He's desperate for a win. Our boy doesn't waste a single second. He immediately triggers his affinity extraction skill, his hands glowing with intense blue mana as he begins to pull her essence right out of thin air. He just looks at her with a completely blank face and gets a flat no. He isn't running a charity here, he's got a world to save, and he needs the best gear for himself. Sehun gives a polite nod and tells her he'll see her later, walking out with a supreme-grade material in his pocket like it's no big deal. The doors swing open with a heavy thud as a voice booms from the shadows. The chairman is waiting, and the pressure in the room is heavy. Ludwig admits that the armaments Sehun showed off today were quite interesting. He's leaning back, clearly intrigued by this mysterious freshman's talent. Sehun stands alone in the center of the grand office as the weight of the moment sinks in. 2 rewards from the chairman is a total game changer. Sehun confirms they're perfect. He's not just a student getting a prize, he's a master who just got the missing ingredients for a revolution. A close-up on Ludwig's sharp yellow eye shows him pondering the mystery of the last blacksmith. The other students are shocked when he mentions plans with Howard, the top third-year cadet. Hans is desperately name-dropping to get his authority back. The tension is thick as Sehun takes his seat. He's established himself as the undisputed king of the room without saying a single word. The door swings open as Professor Kim In-keol enters. It's time for the first official class. Sehun is actually impressed, thinking the professor is a world-class artisan for a reason. Even a regressor can appreciate a master's technique. The other students are impressed, but Sehun just sits there, thinking no one here has the most important talent. He's on a completely different wavelength. The awkward tension is broken by a knock at the door. It's Professor Kim In-keol, probably wondering why his star student is having a private meeting with the big boss. He follows the professor down the hall, his mind already spinning with ideas for what to forge next. This kid never stops the grind. The chairman tells him to just say what he needs, giving the kid total freedom to pick his own power-up. Later, Sehun walks through the academy grounds, wondering if the chairman's generosity is a bet on his potential or a warning. He admits that even he cannot fathom that depth. Meanwhile, Sehun stands alone under the stars, his silhouette crackling with that same mysterious energy. Hans explains that their families are close. The chibi version of him looking proud while the others fawn over him is peak school drama. The professor finally calls Sehun's name. It's time for the master to show these kids how it's really done. Sehun doesn't hesitate, asking for rewards that will increase his magic power and his memory. He's not looking for flashy gear, he's looking for the stats he needs to carry out his master plan. So the exhibition hall is packed with students checking out the top freshmen's work. The buzz is all about who's the real deal this year. Looking closer, the narration notes that even with all that alloy, Sehun's true power couldn't be fully contained. The result is still terrifyingly beautiful. Class is dismissed, and while other students are heading out, Sehun is already thinking 5 steps ahead. He gets real with Sehun, asking what he's frustrated with. Is it his mana pool, or his body not keeping up with his ambitions? He watches the instructor working and can't help but offer some professional advice, telling him he's wasting mana and should focus his power better. The train pulls into the station for the UR faculty, home to the Department of Shamanism. This is where the magic happens, and Sehun is looking for a specific kind of help. Another student tries to jump in and offer Erica a guide, but he's completely ignored. A quick flashback to Erica's own performance shows her using that massive Shadow Knight. She knows how much power can be hidden in defensive techniques. Sehun looks genuinely pleased, thanking her. He's got what he came for, and his plan to level up his body is now in motion. 2 weapons are stealing the show, but some students are already acting like haters, whispering that it's ridiculous to say a freshman is on another level. The scene shifts to the man himself, back in the grind. Sehun is hammering away in a dark room lit only by the glowing hot metal. He looks at his own hand, assessing his current physical limits. His mind is a god's, but his body is still just a rookie's. Sehun smirks and admits that right now his body is the bottleneck. He has the knowledge of a demon slayer, but he's trapped in a vessel that gets tired. He casually walks out, leaving the instructor to ponder the tip. He's basically coaching his own teachers now. He steps off the train with total confidence and spots someone familiar in the distance. Erica shuts him down immediately, telling him to go on without her. She's much more interested in Sehun. She hands Sehun a piece of paper sealed with a magical emblem and tells him to try tearing it. It's a test. Erica tells the lingering students to go grab lunch. Sehun waves a casual goodbye, saying he's off to register for his new minor. These guys are really leaning into the skepticism, trying to believe it's all hype, rather than admitting someone's actually just better. This isn't just practice, it's perfection. The text highlights that there isn't a single error in his movements, showing the muscle memory of a lifetime he's already lived. He stares down at a set of blades. For Sehun, good enough doesn't exist, it's either perfection or it's scrap. He reflects on his limitations, remembering a moment where he literally collapsed from exhaustion. The instructor is left standing there, stunned. He's wondering if a freshman really just lectured him on the fundamentals of his own craft. It's Erika Inoue, and of course, she's being swarmed by other students like a celebrity. She starts following Sehun instead, leaving the other students in total shock. Sehun tears the paper, feeling the resistance. He asks if the spell was meant to increase its physical strength. The fawning students rush back to Erika the second Sehun is gone, asking if she's alright after talking to the commoner. The gap in how they see him is hilarious. Then you have Sehun's avatar, which looks more like a divine punishment than a student project. The text notes this jagged, shield-like masterpiece manifested during his demo, proving his soul is a spiked metal fortress. Sehun finally pauses while the assistant instructor watches from the shadows, completely dumbfounded, wondering what he's even supposed to teach a kid who's already a master. The vibe gets intense as he raises his hammer again. A voice in his head asks if he's really going to break another masterpiece just to reach the next impossible level. The instructor throws out a classic RPG shortcut. Why train for months when you can just use magical buffs to boost your stats? He just stares as the door closes behind Sehun, feeling a mix of confusion and awe. Two random guys decide to block Sehun's path, telling him to get out of the way. These dudes have no idea they're talking to a man who's killed gods. Sehun keeps a steady pace, not even looking back as the most popular girl in school follows him like a shadow. Erika explains it's more complex. The barrier maintains the paper's properties but makes it incredibly hard when a strong force hits it. It's a non-Newtonian fluid in magical form. The camera pans down to the torn pieces of the invitation. The word noblesse is visible, a subtle nod to the status that Sehun just literally tore through. The gossip mill is in full swing. Some students are coping by saying it must have been a fluke or just the high-quality alloy. The poor instructor is having a midlife crisis, realizing he's outclassed by a freshman. He decides to just pass Sehun and let him do whatever he wants. The assistant instructor interrupts, snapping Sehun out of his focus. Sehun looks genuinely surprised, like the idea of using buffs never even crossed his mind. He's so used to the hard way he forgot magic exists. We see Sehun out by the academy's private train station. The narration explains that Babel is all about autonomous learning. Sehun just stares them down with pure boredom. He tells them flat out that they should be the ones moving. Erika breaks the silence, asking what kind of magic he's actually looking to learn. Sehun immediately realizes this is perfect for smelting. Erika warns him that applying it that way is incredibly difficult. Erika watches him go, thinking about the invitation. She knows that by giving him that connection, she's just changed the course of both their futures, and I am so here for it. But Erika isn't buying the luck argument. She looks at the weapon with total focus, admitting she sees exactly how much intent went into every single spike. The instructor gives him a fair warning. Whatever he's working on needs to be delivered in a week, so he better not smash it during one of his obsessive episodes. A sinister smile creeps onto his face as he realizes the potential. In his first life, he ignored shortcuts, but this time, he's using every trick in the book. Sehun is riding the rails, looking cool as usual. There's a catch to all that freedom though. 3 failing grades and you're expelled. The two guys are instantly rattled by his sheer pressure. They freeze as he casually walks right past them. He gets straight to the point. He wants to learn about buffs, not the flashy stuff, just what makes his physical work easier. Sehun notes the spell formula feels strangely familiar, likely from his past life. Erika, impressed, offers to introduce him to a professor from her family's branch who specializes in this. Jake steps up beside her, agreeing that the craftsmanship is undeniable. The other top students recognize a monster when they see one. He drops some useful info. Babel provides budgets based on the performance of weapons sold to the outside world. It's a performance-based scholarship for blacksmiths. He's already calculating the gains. With the right buffs, he can finally smelt that heavy rock and accelerate his growth. He walks right up to Erika, who looks surprised to see the top blacksmith in her neck of the woods. Erika presses for more details, wondering if he wants physical enhancement or something more specialized for crafting. A close-up of the elegant seal on the envelope shows the prestige of the Inoue family. Sehun is getting a direct connection to high-level noble magic. He politely thanks the instructor, looking like the model student. The teacher has no idea he just handed a monster the key to leveling up even faster. Sehun casually drops that he's thinking of taking shamanism as a minor. The idea of a blacksmith learning dark arts is definitely unusual. He specifies that he needs buffs that boost his physical stats without messing with his mana control during smelting. A very technical requirement. Erika is genuinely shocked, realizing Sehun understood her family's secret barrier technique in seconds. His talent is looking more like scary experience. As the instructor leaves, Sehun's mind is already back in the forge, ready to turn this advice into a tangible advantage. He even asks about barrier techniques, which are usually just for defense. Sehun, however, is thinking about using them to contain heat or pressure in a forge. She watches him with a mix of wonder and concern, noting he didn't just understand it, he effectively broke it. Sehun is a variable she wasn't prepared for. She pulls out a small fancy envelope, admitting the effectiveness depends on how you apply the magic. She's starting to see his out-of-the-box thinking. Alright, we're over at the UR Department of Sorcery, where the campus looks just as upscale and intimidating as the rest of Babel. As they walk deeper into the woods, Sehun mutters that this whole thing sounds like a massive pain. Robert is staring at the screen in disbelief. The number of applicants for his course has tripled. He knows exactly why, and he's looking at the two celebrity students in front of him. Robert announces they've all passed the first test. Now, he will divide the classes based on a second test. The real screening begins. The red-haired kid is struggling hard, realizing the standard method is way too taxing for him. Erica stands at the center of the spiderweb, glowing with a brilliant white mana. She's not even touching the ground, just radiating pure magical authority. Sehun drops into a squat over the red mana web, looking more like he's inspecting a leaky pipe than a magical barrier. The students are looking at him like he's lost his mind. Sehun finally places his hand on the ground, and instead of white sorcery mana, a torrent of orange-red flames erupts from his palm. He's literally setting the magic circle on fire. Professor Robert looks at his watch, and his eyes nearly pop out of his head. He mutters the time, 7 minutes and 45 seconds, trying to process what he just saw. Sehun is walking through the halls with Erica, and they're already the talk of the town. Students are whispering about them being together again, and the rumors are spreading like wildfire. Suddenly, someone's foot trips a hidden magical trigger, and the ground erupts in blue energy. Looks like they walked right into the barrier they were supposed to find. He lets out a long sigh, admitting that while the numbers are great, he's not happy about the extra work. He prefers a quiet classroom over a packed house of clout chasers. A cocky red-haired student steps forward, eager to show off. He declares he will go first, clearly trying to act like the protagonist. He decides to go for a high-speed, high-pressure tactic instead, pouring all his energy into a single burst. The moment she starts, the red lines of the formula begin to ripple and distort. She's not fighting the web, she's rewriting it. Erica and the others are genuinely confused, wondering what the hell he's doing. A massive pillar of fire and smoke explodes from the center of the spiderweb, completely incinerating the formula in a violent blast of heat. Sehun just went full scorched earth on the test. He admits to himself the time is meaningless. He realizes that while it took 7 minutes for Sehun to analyze it this time, next time, he'll be able to destroy it in seconds. Sehun is completely unfazed, casually thinking about how people love to gossip. He knows for a fact Erica isn't into him, because his Blacksmith of Bonds system would have flagged it by now. Sehun and the others finally reach a small clearing where a couple of instructors are waiting. The treasure hunt was just a test to see who could navigate the illusory woods. A quick flashback shows Robert had a request from the Inoue family earlier. Erica's presence here isn't random, there's family politics involved. In his head, this dude is convinced this is his big moment to catch Erica's eye. He's projecting a lot of main character energy for a background character. He manages to finish, but he's absolutely drained. Robert notes the time, 8 minutes and 23 seconds. Not great, but he survived. A massive explosion of white energy obliterates the entire formula in a split second. The other students are shell-shocked. Sehun is analyzing the structure with his blacksmith's eyes. He realizes the barrier shares logic with heavyweight ore. It repairs itself if the input isn't right. He's treating magic like metal. Everyone is staring in total, stunned silence as the smoke clears. Sehun is just standing there in the middle of a charred crater. Robert realizes the truth. Sehun didn't just break the barrier, he created a new formula specifically to destroy the original one. That's veteran mage-level sorcery. They've made it out to a forested training area. Sehun is questioning if the department really makes everyone take a field test just to sign up for a minor. The main instructor gives a casual, "You've passed the test," as the group gathers. The professor explains the barrier they just navigated, the labyrinth of illusory souls. It's designed to twist your sense of direction and make you wander in circles. The student stands in the middle of a circle, sweating as he prepares for the next barrier. Robert tells him it's not bad. In the background, Erica and Sehun are just watching, completely unimpressed. Erica finishes with a flourish of dark feathers, looking like she didn't even break a sweat. An onlooker mutters, "So, that's the top student, finally seeing the gap." He visualizes a forge, seeking the perfect heat to melt the spell. He knows that to dismantle this, he has to balance all stimuli and inject them simultaneously. He's planning a one-shot kill. He stays in his crouch, casually muttering, "Done." The ground is literally smoking around his feet. Erica watches him leave, a thoughtful look in her eyes. She thinks about what will happen if he adds sorcery to his smelting skills. She's realized Sehun is about to become something the world has never seen. They arrive at the testing ground for barrier construction, which basically looks like a bunch of rocks and trees. Erika looks a bit surprised, probably thinking the first part was too easy for a noble level exam. He notes that if you're ignorant of sorcery, you'd walk right through it without even realizing you're being manipulated, a subtle but effective way to filter out the amateurs. The test begins, and a complex magical formula erupts in a red spider web pattern. This is a binding spider barrier, meant to test your ability to dismantle a formula from the inside. A montage shows the rest of the applicants failing or barely scraping by. The timer stops at a staggering 22 seconds. Robert notes it was fine but points out the standard method would have been faster. Erika just takes the critique like a pro. Professor Robert is losing his cool, demanding to know what Sehun is doing. He thinks the boy is just wasting time. Sehun looks satisfied, thinking that with this insight he can finally refine that stubborn heavyweight ore. He didn't just pass a test, he used it as a free training session. Sehun walks alone through the forest, the undisputed center of attention, but he's already focused on his next goal. A couple of other students are nearby looking absolutely lost and frustrated. Meet Robert Perry, a professor of barrier construction. He's already heard about Erika's interest, and he's sizing up the top student who dropped by his beginner course. Robert watches Sehun closely, noting that even though Erika didn't help him, the boy navigated the labyrinth with zero issues. He's starting to realize Sehun isn't just a tag-along. The narration explains the mechanics. The spider at the center senses mana and regenerates infinitely. You can't just break it, you have to outsmart the spell's logic. The professor announces that this group will all start in the beginner class. Even beginner level in the sorcery department is no joke. Robert looks at the last name on his list and finally calls for Lee Sehun. Every eye is on the blacksmith now. Erika steps in and tells the professor to just leave him be. Robert looks annoyed but is also curious about what this weird blacksmith is cooking up. He walks away from the burnt patch of grass, looking as bored as when he first arrived. The final narration sums it up perfectly. I shudder to think what kind of items he will create. This blacksmith is officially a world-class threat now. Sehun's starting to lose patience, wondering if they're really being forced to play some kind of magical treasure hunt. He's a blacksmith, not a scout. An assistant hands the professor a tablet with the latest stats. Next up, Erika Inoue. The atmosphere shifts instantly as the top student of the faculty steps into the circle. Sehun steps forward with a blank look. He thinks to himself, this doesn't seem special. This man is about to talk trash about a high-level sorcery test. Erika watches Sehun with intense curiosity, wondering what he's seeing that nobody else can. Sehun walks away, his silhouette disappearing into the forest. The wide shot shows the massive gap between him and the rest of the applicants. Erika looks perfectly calm as she prepares. She tells him to begin, her voice as cool as ice. Sehun's making moves as an official Babel cadet, and the administration is busy processing his request for intermediate smelting. It's an ambitious jump, and everyone is wondering which professors are brave enough to supervise him. Sehun is about to pick a supervisor when his phone gives off one final unique notification. He's got a look that says, wait, what now? Sehun is in the workshop when he hears a voice behind him. He turns around, not expecting her to show up this early. He kicks things off with step 1, dark heavy stone smelting. He's holding a massive hexagonal black stone ready to wrestle some serious mana. The mana begins to swirl, separating the impurities from the core. This is a delicate process requiring perfect mana control. Sehun is looking at the stone, wondering if reducing it to 1/4 is the best he can manage. He's worried the performance won't meet his high standards. Sehun raises his arms, and the fire mana explodes around him in a massive pillar of heat. Yunha is just a silhouette, witnessing a level of elemental control that shouldn't be possible. Sehun brings his hammer down with a massive strike. The hammer is coated in that green guardian wildfire, and sparks fly across the workshop. A wide shot of the academy shows the sun setting while the sound of Sehun's hammer echoes. He's been at this for a long time. The stone finally hits its limit, having absorbed all the fire mana it can hold. It begins to shift, glowing with a new, dangerous energy. Yunha leans forward, her sharp eyes following his every move. She's wondering what his end goal is, as his process is becoming increasingly unorthodox. A massive surge of blue and white mana explodes from the anvil as the forge completes. The force shakes the entire room. We get the breakdown for the Dark Spider Bracelet. It's a rare-grade accessory that absorbs the wearer's mana and increases in weight to match. Plus, it allows the use of a Black Spirit thread. Sehun has a total sweat drop moment as the serious atmosphere gets vaporized by a stomach growl. He's realizing his legendary department head might be a bit of a handful. He hands the bracelet over to her, saying he doesn't know if it'll satisfy her appetite but hopes she'll take it as thanks. Smart kid, always building those bonds. She continues with the food metaphors, saying the bracelet tastes like fried tempura crumbs. It's hilarious to see an S-rank ranker describing high-level gear like a snack. She asks him when he plans on processing his other high-level gear. She's clearly eager to see and maybe taste what he cooks up next. She asks if he's finally done for the day. Sehun gives a tired, yes, looking like he's ready to sleep for a week. Sehun gives a charming, slightly embarrassed smirk as he regains his balance. He admits he made a slight mistake in distributing his stamina. They're free-falling through the moonlit sky over the academy grounds. It's an epic, high-speed way to travel, even if Sehun looks like he's hanging on for dear life. We get a close-up of Yunha's determined face as she glides through the air. She looks like a true hero and is clearly taking a real interest in our protagonist. But back at the dorms, someone is waiting. A mysterious dark-haired girl is looking out the window, wondering where Sehun could possibly be this late. Looks like our boy has some explaining to do when he gets home. Our boy is just chilling at his desk, leaning back like he doesn't have a care in the world. He stares at the screen with wide eyes, genuinely caught off guard for the first time in a while. Dean Ryu Unha walks in looking sharp and professional, explaining that as the head, she felt the need to verify his skills personally. He drops the stone into a vat of liquid. The narration notes he's using the dark veil method, which is the absolute hardest way to handle this material. Sehun is locked in, his gaze intense. This is akin to restructuring matter itself. One wrong move and the whole thing dissolves into junk. Time for step 2. Sehun ignites his mana, and suddenly his hands are wreathed in a fierce orange-red flame. He's about to turn up the heat. He starts channeling his mana through the flames, carefully picking out the appropriate sparks. He's striking the stone repeatedly to reduce the distortion. The key is to keep hitting it until the wildfire stabilizes the core. Inside the workshop, Yunha is actually starting to yawn. Even the legendary department head is getting tired after watching this for hours. The distortion has stopped. The stone is now a perfect black cube pulsing with purple mana. He has successfully refined one of the most difficult materials in existence on his first try. Step 4. The final phase is here, and it looks like it's going to be a doozy. System alerts confirm the win. He successfully crafted the Dark Spider bracelet and unlocked a new skill, Black Spirit Thread. This kid is just farming upgrades. Sehun gives a tired, confident smile as he holds the finished bracelet. He mutters, "It's a success," knowing he just proved himself to the toughest critic in the school. Yunha quickly tries to pivot, holding the bracelet and noting how impressive it is. Sehun just sighs and admits it's not that strong. Yunha takes the bracelet, her red hair catching the light. You can see that weapon-eater hunger in her eyes again. She's definitely not planning on wearing this. Sehun thinks to himself that she's being surprisingly generous. He wonders if he's accidentally started catering his smithing style to her specific tastes. Sehun shocks her by saying he has no intention of selling them right now. He's got his own plans and they don't involve being someone's afternoon snack. She suggests they head out and let the staff handle the cleanup. Sehun is more than happy to agree, admitting he doesn't have a single drop of strength left. Yunha offers to take him directly to his dormitory. She asks with a playful look if he's afraid of heights. Sehun is wondering what he just signed up for. Sehun watches her silhouette against the stars, thinking about how much things have changed from the original timeline. He's making allies he never had before. Suddenly, his phone starts blowing up with notifications. It looks like every professor in the smelting department is racing to be the one to oversee his work. He's the most popular guy on campus. The camera zooms in on his eye, capturing the reflection of his phone screen. The tension is building. Sehun takes a breath, realizing the stakes just doubled. He thinks that since the big boss is here, he's really going to have to pull out all the stops. He seals the vat, placing the stone in total darkness. The key is working in a space with no light, a total nightmare for anyone without his experience. Ryu Yunha is watching from the side with her arms crossed, looking impressed. She knows exactly how difficult the Dark Veil method really is. The flames transform into a brilliant swirling green energy known as Guardian Wildfire. These are stabilized flames that maintain their exact temperature, essential for this sensitive material. Yunha watches, noting that even if he's immune to the heat, the physical toll must be insane. She realizes his dedication is bordering on obsession. She leans back against the wall, watching him patiently. She's not going anywhere until he finishes. He moves to the final stage, pouring the molten stone into a mold. Sehun activates a barrier-breaking technique, a high-risk move to draw out the material's maximum potential. It's a gamble that could destroy the item, but Sehun doesn't do safe. Sehun is bent over, gasping for air as the smoke clears. He looks like he's about to collapse, but the satisfaction on his face says it was all worth it. Suddenly, a massive growling sound echoes through the workshop. Sehun and Unha both look down at her stomach in pure, awkward silence. The weapon eater is hungry again. A close-up of the bracelet shows the dark, pulsing energy. Sehun thinks if he can craft a matching set, he can aim for a powerful set effect later. She activates her Dragon Soul Furnace skill, and red flames start swirling around her hand. This is where she literally consumes the weapon to absorb its power. He tells her he's glad she liked it, sporting a casual smile. He's happy to see that raising her affinity level will be easier than he first thought. He explains he's keeping them to prepare for the upcoming subjugation class. He drops a classic proverb, "Hunger is the best seasoning," telling her she'll have to wait. As they turn to leave, Sehun's legs finally give out. He stumbles, the exhaustion finally catching up to him all at once. She doesn't wait for an answer, scooping him up in her arms. Sehun looks totally stunned as he gets princess carried by the most powerful woman in the department. The final wide shot shows them as a small streak of fire flying over the massive academy. It's a peaceful, beautiful end to an incredibly intense day. We get a shot of some serious-looking faculty members, but there's a catch. Not a single person from Vice Dean Michael's faction has reached out. The political lines are already being drawn. The message reveals the bombshell. The department head herself is going to personally oversee his work. Ryu Unha isn't leaving this to chance. And we've moved on to step 3. Things are about to get loud and very physical. From behind, we see Sehun silhouetted against the brilliant green light. He's hammering away like a man possessed, chasing perfection. The text confirms a staggering 4 hours have passed. That's an insane amount of time to maintain high-level mana output. Sehun looks absolutely wiped out, sweat dripping off his chin. He's focusing every last drop of concentration on the cooling process. He stands there catching his breath. He's officially survived the intermediate smelting challenge and has a rare grade item to show for it. She takes a metaphorical bite out of the bracelet, and her expression shifts to genuine enjoyment. She says it's quite edible, basically a 5-star review from her. Yunha looks over at the other items on Sehun's table, admitting it's almost a shame to eat those given how well crafted they are. She's officially a fan. Yunha looks a bit disappointed but gives a small smile, saying she'll be looking forward to it. She respects his drive. In a flash, Yuna catches him. She's right there to steady him, asking if he's alright with a concerned look. A pretty smooth save. And then, she just leaps right out of the workshop window with him. They're soaring into the night air, and Sehun is probably regretting skipping the elevator. Sehun's hand is literally trembling as he grips the hammer. He's pushing his rookie body past its limits to ensure every strike is perfect. Someone's lurking on the academy's bulletin board, and the top post is blowing up. An anonymous user is asking why a top sorcery student has been standing in front of the forging building for 3 hours. Meet your new instructor, Ricardo Miles, who looks more like a gym rat than a theory professor. He's rocking a red bandana and a tank top, and he's here to teach understanding tools. Sehun is caught in the middle of the sprint, wondering why a theory class is turning into a high-stakes cardio session. Ricardos isn't cutting anyone slack, barking out orders for the 20 laps. The instructor explains that their training method has been changed because of the recent Yomdo hunt. Ricardos declares that today, they're finally going to talk about swords. He's ready to show them a weapon is only as good as the person swinging it. His status window pops up, showing all his stats have increased significantly. He's determined to make this body useful before his first year is even over. Ricardos walks over and looks down at him, admitting that Sehun is in much better shape than he expected. He's starting to realize this blacksmith might have the heart of a warrior. Sehun lunges forward and strikes, their blades clashing with a loud sound. Ricardos blocks it easily, but you can see the visible shockwave. The instructor easily deflects another strike, telling Sehun that while his technique is good, he's being way too hasty. A split panel shows Sehun's glowing yellow eye locked on his target, while Ricardos keeps a steady gaze. The instructor manages to block the hit at the last second, but he's genuinely shaken. He admits to himself that for a split second he was actually scared of a technical student. In the past, the old man scolds a younger Sehun, telling him that people without money are always in a rush. He was a tough teacher with real-world wisdom. The scene shifts to the massive Akalku faculty building. It turns out Ricardos gave Sehun a recommendation letter to see a very specific teacher. Meet the legendary sword-breaking Ma Guangsu. He's got that classic done-with-everything vibe and a gaze that could peel paint. Ma Guangsu isn't buying the hype, stating that Sehun doesn't look good no matter how he sees it. He's the ultimate gatekeeper. Ma Guangsu raises his hand and gives a simple command, "Start." The duel is on. Ma Guangsu watches with a keen eye, wondering if Sehun is using a special technique to maximize flexibility. He's starting to see the skill beneath the surface. Jake lunges again, his hands reaching for Sehun as he tries to close the distance. Jake executes a perfect, high-impact suplex, lifting Sehun off his feet. It's a textbook move that should end the fight. The impact is absolute, a huge pillar of blue energy and dust filling the room. It looks like a bomb went off. The camera pans over the wreckage of the training room floor, showing the scale of the destruction. The post includes a grainy photo of Erika Inoue just standing there like a statue. The comments are piling up with people wondering what could keep a noble girl waiting that long. He skips the syllabus and tells everyone to head to the training center immediately. The last student to arrive gets to run 20 laps. He's pushing through the hallway, his face set in pure determination. Even a master blacksmith can't escape Babel's physical demands. Sehun is out there on the track, admitting to himself that his current stamina is at rock bottom. He's barely holding it together. We get a stylized look at the Yamdo hunters, who forged fire attribute swords to deal with high-grade monsters. Sehun is back at it, pushing himself through more training drills to raise his stamina. He's lying face down in the sand, completely drained. Training under gravity is no joke. The instructor tosses a practice sword to Sehun, telling him it's time to see if his swordsmanship is actually suitable for the field. In the stands, the typical academy bullies are laughing at Sehun, calling him slow. They have no idea what they're looking at. A single droplet of water falls against a dark background, signifying a moment of perfect clarity. The duel is entering its next phase. The sparring session turns into a blur of motion as they trade high-speed blows. They stand apart, both huffing for air. Ricaros is sweating, wondering if he just hallucinated that level of threat. The old man offers to teach Sehun skills in exchange for his forging services, knowing knowledge is the only currency that matters. Sehun stands in a hallway, staring at a door with a look of, here we go again. He's about to meet someone from his past. He's busy trash-talking Ricaros, calling him an old man addicted to gambling and drinking. He's not impressed with the recommendation. Jake is practically begging the old man to teach them. Ma Guangsu looks totally fed up. Jake doesn't hesitate, launching himself forward with a powerful punch. He's trying to end this before Sehun can react. Jake switches tactics and goes for a grappling move, the standard counter to a flexible opponent. He's a smart fighter. The two clash in a blur of motion, Jake successfully grabbing Sehun around the waist. Sehun is in a very dangerous position. But as they hit the ground, Sehun's eye glows blue and he triggers the explosive gravity skill. A massive shockwave of blue light erupts from his bracelet. The dust clears to show a massive crater on the floor. Both fighters are slumped on the ground. Sehun sits up with a cheeky, exhausted grin, asking, was I a bit faster? He just won a fight against the top combat cadet using a blacksmith's tool and a whole lot of audacity. What a legend. The gossip is in full swing, with people speculating that she's waiting for the top forging student. The entire class turns into a stampede as students scramble to get out of the room. Students are pouring into the stadium, some already looking like they're about to pass out. A wide shot of the stadium shows the students circling the field. Ricaros looks Sehun right in the eye, telling him that no matter what kind of amazing gear you craft, your own body is what ultimately remains. A harsh truth Sehun takes to heart. He takes a moment to look at the bracelet on his wrist, which is glowing with a faint blue light. This isn't just fashion, it's a high-level tool he forged himself. He manages to roll over and look up at the bright sky, sweat pouring down his face. The burst notification shows he's successfully broken through another physical barrier. Sehun catches the sword, noting it'll be tough to move with the weight of the gravity bracelet. He's essentially fighting with a massive handicap. Ricaros, on the other hand, is genuinely impressed. He can see that Sehun's sword movements are efficient and the blade knows the path it must take. Sehun lunges in for a decisive strike. Ricaros' eye goes wide as he realizes the kid just found a gap in his defense. The instructor lowers his sword and asks the big question, who taught him that swordsmanship? He knows that kind of skill doesn't just come from watching videos. Back in the present, Sehun plays it cool, lying that he just roughly watched other heroes' battles on video sites. Ricaros looks totally skeptical. He's immediately confronted by a grumpy, scarred man yelling that he has nothing to teach anyone. This dude is not in the mood for a new student. Sehun gives a polite bow and introduces himself. Ma Guangsu just stares at him like he's a bug. The legendary hero clenches his fist, a dark and imposing aura bleeding off him. He's about to set a hardcore condition. Sehun dodges with incredible grace, his body blurring as he slips past the strike. He's moving like he predicted the attack. Ma Guangsu is annoyed, thinking he hates smartasses who play mind games. He's looking for raw power, not clever tricks. Sehun grunts in surprise, realizing Jake's power is even greater than he anticipated. Sehun is lying there groaning. That high-risk gamble definitely hurt him as much as it hurt Jake. Finally, someone points out that posting photos without permission is a violation of portrait rights. Sehun is staring at his phone, realizing he's the reason for all this drama. Ricaros stands at the center, looking completely relaxed. The warm-up is finally over, and the real lesson is about to begin. The other students, including the elite Jake Myers, look totally pumped up by the instructor's speech. The explosive gravity skill from his bracelet is active, allowing him to manipulate gravity. He's literally training under increased weight to speed up his growth. The two face off in the middle of the stadium as the other students watch. Sehun admits his technique isn't amazing, but he's not going down without a fight. Sehun gives a subtle, knowing smirk. He's got decades of experience he can't exactly put on a resume. The instructor asks if he intends to learn properly, realizing Sehun has a raw talent that shouldn't be wasted in a workshop. The narration identifies the man as a retired S-rank hero and a regular customer of Sehun's from the future. Small world. Jake Myers is already in the room, whispering to the old man that this kid is the top student of the entire Borsippa department. He points a finger at Jake and makes a deal. If he beats the other guy, he'll accept him. He's turning the two students against each other for his own amusement. Jake is completely out of it, lying flat on his back with his eyes glazed over. He took the brunt of that gravity explosion at point-blank range. Sehun is just chilling in a lecture hall, completely unbothered. He figures if it was important, she'll just find him on her own. He thinks back to his previous life, remembering a master who told him it took 10 minutes to learn a skill that actually took him years of suffering to perfect. A close-up of Jake's face shows a trickle of blood and sweat. He's officially down for the count. Suddenly, the peaceful atmosphere is shattered as the classroom doors burst open with a loud bang. Jake Myers is currently a heap on the floor after that gravity-infused suplex. Ma Guangsu stands over the wreckage, clearly impressed by the move he just saw from a supposed blacksmith. Jake pulls himself up, looking humbled but ready to earn his keep. Ma Guangsu demands to see the sword technique Sehun used on Rikaros. Sehun just agrees, ready to show off the skills he inherited from the future version of this very man. He finishes the strike with a flare of energy, catching Ma Guangsu's attention for real. The speed of that draw is insane. Ma Guangsu declares he'll build a proper body for Sehun to match that technique. He's officially taking him under his wing even if he acts like it's a burden. As Sehun walks away, someone shouts from behind, "Looks like he hasn't escaped the attention of his fellow students just yet." Jake explains that while there are a lot of obnoxious jerks there, it would be a good opportunity for Sehun to make connections. He's being surprisingly helpful. Suddenly, someone bumps into him. Sehun looks down, seeing a girl with long brown hair and glasses who looks like she's in a serious hurry. Meet Leia Claudel, an eccentric genius from the enchanting department. She's practically drooling over the item, asking if she can enchant it for him. What a lucky encounter. Leia starts mumbling to herself about adding more formulas to the item. She's so focused she doesn't even notice Sehun is still standing there. She notes they have a resonance effect and tells Sehun to keep that in mind. She's already treating him like a fellow professional. Leia isn't having any of it, snapping at the guy to back off. She's already defensive of her new business partner, calling him Erica's underling with a mocking tone. Sehun scratches his head, asking if Erica actually sent him. The guy admits that no, he's acting on his own, confirming he's just a self-appointed white knight. The guy sneers, saying Sehun might be under the delusion that he's someone special, his aura starting to leak out. Sehun asks, "Are you talking about yourself?" perfectly countering the guy's arrogance. The furious "shut up" that follows shows he hit a major nerve. Sehun delivers a devastating blow right to the guy's chest. He's not pulling his punches anymore, and the impact looks like it really hurt. The affinity seal, Greedy Iron, has been activated. Sehun is glowing with an intense red energy as his secret weapon kicks in. This is about to get very one-sided. Another massive impact sends the bully tumbling through the air like a rag doll. Sehun is absolutely dominating the fight. Sehun stands over the fallen cadet, looking like a total boss. Leia is standing right next to him with a satisfied look. The bully just got a reality check. Ma Guangsu kicks everyone else out, leaving the other cadets confused. He sticks to his word though, since Sehun won, he's earned his place. With a bright, energetic shout, Jake accepts the challenge of a future lesson. He's got that classic shonen protagonist energy. Sehun takes a breath, focusing his mana. The intensity in his eyes shows this is a master-level demonstration. Ma Guangsu analyzes the move, noting it relies entirely on surprise. He's a harsh critic, telling Sehun that while the concept is solid, the execution is still sloppy. Sehun casually asks if his class registration is confirmed now. The old man looks baffled but sighs and agrees. It's Jake Myers again, catching up. He's surprisingly persistent, especially after that beatdown. Jake Myers gives a bright smile, thanking Sehun for letting him take the class. It's a genuine moment of gratitude that shows Jake might be a decent guy. He catches her as she stumbles, but she's immediately distracted by something in his hand. The system confirms the connection. An affinity has been established with Leia Claudel. Sehun just keeps stumbling into the most talented people in the school by accident. Sehun asks if the armament is no good, trying to snap her out of it. She quickly corrects him, saying it's actually too good. Suddenly, a deep voice interrupts, asking, "Just what exactly are you?" A tall guy with dark hair is standing there, looking like he's about to start trouble. Sehun doesn't move an inch, calmly telling the guy to just say it here. He's not going to be intimidated into some dark corner. Leia gives a sarcastic laugh in the background. She knows exactly what kind of person this is. Sehun just stares back, thinking that Babel is indeed filled with people who think they're superior. He's seen it all before. The guy lunges forward with a punch, his fist wreathed in dark mana. He's really trying to take Sehun's head off. The guy is sent flying backward. Sehun notes that it's not just mana he's sensing, there's something else hidden in the guy's armor that he recognizes. With a predatory look, Sehun mutters, "With a taste like this, it's no wonder you'd go crazy for it." He's sounding more like the weapon eater than ever. The guy hits the ground hard, gasping for air. He's officially finished, and he knows it. Leia turns back to Sehun, asking, "Anyway, Senior," with a bright smile. She's already forgotten the guy on the ground, more interested in their enchanting business. Sehun just stands there looking cool as ever, after taking down the faculty's golden boy. Jake makes his exit, leaving with a bit more respect for the blacksmith than he started with. With a sudden sound, Sehun lunges forward in a blur of motion. He's moving with a precision and speed that shouldn't belong to a freshman blacksmith. The old man demonstrates his own stance, warning Sehun that a technique that's useless a second time isn't a true technique. He's dropping some veteran wisdom. With a polite, "I'll take my leave," Sehun heads out, mission accomplished. He just secured a legendary S-rank hero as his personal trainer. Jake pulls out a black envelope with a red seal. He says he wanted to give him something, looking more serious than usual. Sehun just gives a simple thanks, pocketing the invitation. He's already thinking about how this social event could benefit his master plan. The camera zooms in on her intense glowing green eyes as she stares at his forging materials. She's locked onto the item like a heat-seeking missile. The character profile reveals Leah is a third-year student and a total genius among the sorcery faculty. She's geeking out over the compatibility of the heavyweight ore, her face lit up with excitement. She exclaims there's too much she wants to do with it. Leah introduces herself properly as a third year in the enchanting department, looking incredibly proud. The guy starts to apologize for acting disrespectfully toward young lady Erica. Apparently, he takes noble family honor way too seriously. Leah shouts, asking if anyone here doesn't know he's that young master's lapdog, really twisting the knife. She's not holding back. The camera focuses on Sehun's indifferent face. He's not scared, just bored by their predictable behavior. Sehun dodges with ease, his silhouette a blur. He's already seen through the attack. The bully is huffing, wondering how he did that. He can't believe a technical student just overpowered him so easily. We get the stats for the Supreme Grade Affinity, Ryu Unha Greedy Iron. It's an iron that generates heat by devouring other iron, literally eating the opponent's equipment. Talk about a broken skill. A wide shot of the area shows the aftermath of the brief but violent skirmish. Sehun looks away, casually asking if there are any enchanting classes she'd recommend. He's always looking for the next way to boost his stats. The instructor notes that the top combat cadet getting beaten by a blacksmith is a massive scandal waiting to happen. Jake tries to save face while the old man just smirks. Sehun turns to the old man, stating he needs to discuss something privately. He's not here just for a spar, he has specific goals. Sehun just laughs, remembering how the future version of this guy would have broken his limbs for such garbage. It's a hilarious moment of realization for our regressor. Ma Guansu watches him go, muttering about what a blunt kid he is. Little does he know, that kid is planning to use him to stop the apocalypse. Sehun takes the mysterious letter. The fancy seal suggests it's an invitation to something high profile. As he walks away, Sehun reflects on the minors he's applied for, barrier construction and body control. He's building a multi-talented build that'll be a nightmare on the battlefield. She asks, "Did you make this?" Her voice full of wonder. She's looking at his heavyweight ore like it's a piece of ancient treasure. The text notes she's reputed to have completely shattered the enchanting industry. Seeing a rare grade item made from heavyweight ore is a dream come true for her. Sehun gives an indifferent response saying, if that's the case, then it's fine. He's used to dealing with obsessive artisans. The tough-looking guy tells Sehun they need to talk privately. He's got that "I'm a superior" vibe that Sehun absolutely hates. Sehun points out that Erica herself was the one who told him to tear up the invitation. He's not falling for the respect trap. A shot from below shows the tension rising. The lapdog is fuming, and you can feel the dark mana swirling as he prepares to teach Sehun a lesson. Sehun just adjusts his wristband coolly, saying, "Who knows," completely unfazed. Leah blinks in surprise, her green eyes wide. Sehun just stands there confused and asks, "What if I did?" The girl is getting closer, her curiosity overriding any social boundaries. Sehun casually mentions that he has more materials back in the workshop. Her eyes practically turn into dollar signs at the thought of more high-grade ores. A close-up of the guy's narrow blue eye reveals his real motive. He's pissed that Sehun supposedly received an invitation from Myers instead. It's all about petty status games. She recommends Ancient Enchantment and mentions there's a kick-ass senior taking it. She's definitely talking about herself and is looking forward to seeing him in class. Looks like our boy is collecting all the geniuses. Back in the hallway, the guy on the floor is huffing about how a freshman shouldn't be able to fight like that. He's nursing a bruised ego after getting absolutely schooled. The guy is left scratching his head as Erica walks away. She thinks to herself that the weapon clearly has an anti-confiscation enchantment, proving the blacksmith knew who he was dealing with. Suddenly, a system window pops up announcing a connection has been established with Erica Inoue. Sehun is caught off guard, wondering what she did to trigger a bond this fast. Professor Kim finally wraps up the talk, telling the class it's time to begin in earnest. Professor Kim holds the iron ingot, telling the students they must fully grasp the potential of the metal before they can hope to control it. One poor kid is already having a meltdown, screaming about why this isn't working. Professor Kim stands in the background, totally unimpressed. The professor says he'll demonstrate an example array for them to apply. He then manifests a complex blue mana structure. Hans manages to pull it off, laughing maniacally as his metal takes shape. He shouts that it's perfect, looking like he's just won the lottery. Hans tries to reverse the process, but the ingot just starts shattering under his mana. The narration notes the mana array is completely damaged. Hans lowers his head, totally defeated. His ego once again takes a massive hit. Sehun just watches, probably thinking about lunch. The transformation is complete, and the classroom goes silent. Hans is mentally screaming that this doesn't make any sense. We get a stylized look at the legend of the Artisan of Flames. Sehun's methods are starting to create ripples that will change the entire history of blacksmithing. Sehun casually walks back to his seat, thinking that if he has to break the logic of the forge again, he'll do it without hesitation. We get the item stats. It's a crimson flame gem of rare rank and highest quality. It's basically a concentrated battery of fire mana. Sehun reflects on the fact that Kim In-cheol's name never appeared in his original timeline. He realizes that in the future that was deleted, this professor likely met a tragic end. Sehun says, this makes only 4 in total. Acting like a full course load plus 4 electives is totally normal. The professor just looks at him like he's crazy. Back in his dorm room, Sehun sits in the dark, contemplating his next growth stage. He thinks if a sword can be forged, then a human body can be processed the same way. A magical X-ray shows the red energy flooding his mana circuit. He's literally forging his internal organs to withstand the power of a demon god. His eyes snap open, glowing with a brilliant white-hot intensity. He whispers, "I forge myself," completing the most dangerous self-enhancement in history. The scene shifts to the next day as Sehun walks through the hall. He comes across a group of students, and one of them is already face down on the floor. A typical Monday at Babel. Standing alone in his workshop, Sehun vows that this time he won't leave behind a single regret. He's going to save the world, and he's going to do it by being the greatest blacksmith it's ever seen. Haruka Inoue steps into the frame, her presence instantly shutting everyone up. She asks to see the guy's dagger, and everyone starts screaming her name like she's a celebrity. She's genuinely impressed, wondering if Sehun created a specific counterskill just to mess with her sorcery. She's realizing Sehun is a much bigger variable than she anticipated. He wonders if she was spying on him during his little skirmish earlier. He shrugs it off, figuring he got good data and materials out of it either way. A close-up on a scarred hand resting on a metal block. The professor explains that even the same metal can change completely depending on how the mana array is altered. He sets the blocks down on the desk. The challenge is set, and it looks like a real headache for most of the rookies. Sehun and Hans both place their hands on their ingots at the same time. The air hums with the intensity of their mana. Hans is smirking like a villain, thinking this is his chance to finally pull ahead. He's desperate for a win after the demo disaster. Professor Kim calls out to Hans with a cold, serious voice. He tells him to restore the ingot to its original form immediately, and the smile disappears from Hans's face. Hans is sweating buckets, trying to explain that he did exactly what the professor said. Kim just gives him a disappointed look, telling him the ingot simply couldn't withstand the transformation he forced on it. Hans is back to his usual habit of doubting our boy, whispering that Sehun probably just got lucky. He's trying so hard to cope with being outclassed. Professor Kim In-cheol steps up, genuinely intrigued. He asks Sehun to demonstrate it one more time just to prove it wasn't a fluke. The text hammers home the truth of iron, explaining the transformation formula Sehun just used was considered an unsolvable problem for centuries. Our boy is rewriting the textbooks on his first week. The sun sets over Babel Academy, marking the end of another day where Sehun completely shattered everyone's expectations. Sehun is stunned as the professor explains that absorbing the gem's essence can permanently strengthen his own crimson flames. This is exactly the boost his current body needs. He decides to accept the offer, nodding with a firm, "I will enroll." He's curious to see what he can learn from a man who didn't exist in his past life. The two share a firm handshake, officially sealing their new mentor-student bond. Blue sparks of mana fly as the system confirms the connection. He visualizes the mana flowing through his veins, noting that conflicting attributes are usually fatal for a blacksmith. He's about to try something that would kill anyone else. The process looks incredibly painful, with Sehun gritting his teeth as the raw fire mana burns through him. System notifications flood his vision. His Crimson Flame attribute has jumped from F to E+. It doesn't sound like much, but for a freshman it's a massive leap. A girl with orange hair and yellow shades is looking down at the fallen student, mocking him. She asks if he's an idiot and if that's how he expects to succeed. Erica looks totally fed up, giving everyone a side-eye that says to shut up already. She's here on business. Sehun is back in his workshop, staring at a row of daggers on his table. A chibi Sehun is having a crisis, realizing that 10 of his daggers are missing. He's counting them up with a panicked look, wondering who the hell swiped his work. A visual representation shows the metal block being twisted into a dark swirling vortex by mana. This is the form transformation for today's lesson. The professor announces they will practice metal transformation using this iron ingot. They both finish with plenty of time to spare. Hans yells that he's completed it while Sehun gives a calm, "I'm finished." It's a total tie. Professor Kim points to a massive spiked metal sphere that looks like a mace head. This is the array they have to replicate, and it looks like a complete nightmare. Hans is totally lost, stuttering a confused "excuse me" as he realizes he has no idea how to undo the complex transformation. He reminds him that he said this earlier, you must fully grasp the potential of the metal, a hard lesson about quality versus flashy performance. Sehun just keeps his head down, gripping the metal with pure focus. He mutters a quiet, "that will do," signaling he's finished his work. Sehun smirks, holding up the black iron. He explains he intentionally let the professor misunderstand. He only pulled it off because the ingot was specially adjusted for cadets, noting it would have been impossible with ordinary iron. After class, Professor Kim calls Sehun over for a private chat. Sehun gives a casual, "What is it?" probably expecting a lecture. Sehun bows politely, thanking the professor. He's sporting a satisfied smile, knowing this gem will be key to his next tier of equipment. The professor looks pleased but warns him he's already signed up for a lot of electives. Sehun isn't worried. He's a regressor, he's used to the grind. The system window pops up, showing the strengthened connection and the high-quality materials he's extracted. He's building his resource pile at record speeds. He holds the crimson flame gem, his eyes glowing. He declares that he is different, ready to use his unique soul to handle the intense heat. A massive beam of blue light hits him while he's engulfed in a red aura. He thinks to himself that finally he feels the shift in his power level. He's officially acquired the skill Body Refinement Divine Magic 1, and all his physical stats have increased. He stands up, feeling the new strength humming under his skin. Sehun gives a confident grin of his own, responding to her challenge. He's ready to use every single resource to make sure he doesn't repeat the mistakes of the past. The guy stammers out an apology and hands over the weapon. Erika tells him there's no need to report this to her brother. She'll handle the family head herself. We're back in the classroom, and Sehun is looking bored as hell. He already knows all the theories Professor Kim is teaching. The instructions are intense. Create a 3 cm notch in the center of the ingot and then restore it perfectly. It's a test of precision mana control. Professor Kim is nodding in approval. He says the two of them will proceed to the next stage, ready to turn up the difficulty. Hans is sweating as he tries to force the metal into shape. Sehun meanwhile is just staring at his ingot with a look that says, "Is that it?" The professor explains that if you can't restore the array, the equipment will eventually deteriorate and become useless. He's basically calling Hans's work disposable garbage. With a sharp sound, the metal ripples and settles into its new form. Sehun's control over the mana array is so precise it looks like the iron is alive. The professor takes the metal, realizing Sehun used the ingot's sensitive adjustments to his advantage. He's impressed, but also a bit annoyed he missed such a simple detail himself. He pulls out a small box and reveals a brilliant, glowing red stone. He says to consider it an entrance gift for choosing the Babel refining department. The professor then invites him to his own elective course, Weapon Origin Studies. He's clearly trying to scout Sehun for his inner circle. With a sharp sound, he begins to absorb the gem directly into his chest. He's not just using it as a tool, he's making it part of his own biological circuit. We see Erika's reflection in the polished blade. She's looking for something specific, and from her serious expression, she's found it. The professor adds the time limit is 10 minutes, and the clock starts ticking. Hans and Sehun are already locked in. A close-up on Kim In-keol shows him staring at the metal with deep regret. He admits he failed to notice the subtle shift, acknowledging Sehun's eye for detail is already at a professional level. Sehun recognizes the name immediately, knowing it's one of the most prestigious classes in the academy. Alright, so it's deadline day at Babel Academy. Everyone has to put the finishing touches on their gear and you can practically feel the stress in the air. Sehun looks at a sword he worked on previously and calls it a total mess. He admits his rookie body couldn't keep up with his master-level knowledge, leading to tiny misalignments no one else would even notice. He looks at the rest of his gear, realizing he won't have time to fix everything. He's already thinking about the budget he can get if he finishes at least one item to a decent standard. Suddenly, we get a trippy visual of crashing waves, described as the sound of the world crumbling. It's a metaphor for the sheer power he's infusing into his creation. And boom, the system confirms his success with a massive notification. White Light Greatsword has been completed. This isn't just a pass, it's a statement. In the background, two other cadets are struggling to even hold their heavy training swords. One of them is ready to quit, which just highlights how much of a monster Sehun is. Sehun and Leah are walking through town together. Leah admits her personal workspace is a bit secluded. Sehun was curious about her fundamentals, so he's following her to see how an enchanter works. Leah bursts into the room shouting for her grandma at the top of her lungs. It turns out this legendary-looking workshop belongs to her family. The introductions get official, as Helena states her name and Sehun introduces himself. There's a lot of hidden tension as these two master craftsmen size each other up. Sehun follows Leah into the back, asking why she's running a basic hardware shop. Leah gets to work, and the atmosphere completely changes. She's using a frying pan as a base, and you can see the intense magical aura swirling around her. Si-hun watches her closely, reflecting on how he heard Leah was stuck in a massive slump. Seeing her now, it's hard to believe she's having any trouble. While Leah is busy, Se-hun starts looking through a box of discarded tools. He's always on the lookout for materials he can salvage. He grabs a dull kitchen knife from the pile. It's the most basic task possible, but Se-hun is going to turn it into a masterclass. Se-hun begins sharpening, and the sound of the blade on stone is incredibly crisp. His movements are fluid and precise, showing the decades of experience in his young body. Helena gives Leah a sharp command to shut up, and a classic head flick for good measure. The poor enchanter is sent flying as Helena reasserts her dominance. Leah and Si-hun walk away, with Leah grumbling that her grandma is just being cranky. Rikaros complains about her being a lead professor who still has hobbies like this. Helena just snaps back, telling him to mind his own business. Helena doubles down, confirming it was a freshman who just enrolled this year. She's enjoying the look of pure shock on her brother's face. Instructor Rikaros isn't pulling any punches, telling the class that what they make today will set the tone for their entire semester. No pressure, right? He grips his heavy blacksmith hammer with a look of pure determination. He knows he can't take it easy if he wants to stay at the top. Si-hun decides that instead of turning in a bunch of mediocre items, it's better to forge one properly. He carefully places a blade on a high-quality whetstone. A close-up of Se-hun's intense eyes reveals he can actually hear the quality of the blade. He knows that when he hears this sound, he's about to reveal something great. The system praises him, noting a truly great blacksmith can manifest their will just by getting the basics right. He's even unlocked a new skill, Y-light style, just from sharpening a sword. The scene shifts to the next day, a bright Saturday morning. Students are relaxing at an outdoor cafe, a nice contrast to the high-intensity forge. They head towards a more rural area. Leah throws a little sass his way, asking if he thought her high-level enchantments were something he could understand with just a glance. We see a row of large, rustic cooking pots hanging over a fire as Leah's shouting continues. Helena doesn't waste time, telling Leah to get back to work because they have a pile of orders. Leah shows off an enchantment palette filled with colorful powders made from ground-up mana stones. It looks like a high-end makeup kit for weapons. A close-up on Leah's hand shows her applying glowing golden mana powder with a delicate brush. The level of control required is insane, and Se-hun is watching every move. A quick flashback shows Se-hun walking through the academy, thinking about how someone who fails every exam could hold on to a department head spot. He finds an old tool that resonates perfectly with mana circuits. His blacksmith instincts are screaming that this is a hidden gem. Helena looks skeptical, asking if he's really going with such a simple item. Se-hun just gives a firm yes. Helena is watching from the shadows, and her eyes go wide as she realizes he's not just some arrogant rookie. She can see the weight in his strokes that only a true master should have. Helena turns back to Se-hun, asking if he's finished. He stops his work and gives a casual, well, not wanting to brag. Back in the empty smithy, Helena stands alone looking at the knife Si-hun left on the table. Rikaros spots the knife on the table and thinks it's the one he was looking for. He reaches out to grab it. We end with a shot of Se-hun walking away into the sunset, totally unfazed by the waves he's making. Rikaros is left staring after him, wondering who the hell that guy is. And honestly, so are we. This kid is on another level. The classroom erupts with a synchronized agreement. Everyone is scrambling to their stations to start hammering away. The workshop lights up as Se-hun brings the hammer down on the hot metal with a massive strike. Sparks fly as he starts fixing his mistakes with raw power. With a steady sound, Se-hun begins the delicate process of hand-sharpening the blade. This is where a blacksmith's true soul is tested. He holds up the finished sword, and the way the light catches that edge is honestly terrifying. He's etched a permanent, keen edge directly into the blade's structure. Check out those stats. It's a rare grade sword with high quality, and the best part is he made it using common iron. That's like making a diamond out of charcoal. We get a wide view of the rustic blacksmithing district on the edge of town. It's got that classic fantasy village vibe. The owner of the voice finally appears, an old woman named Helena who's got gray hair and a done-with-your-nonsense attitude. She snaps back that she's not deaf. As Helena points them towards the workshop, Se-hun realizes her skills are even better than he first anticipated. He can sense the raw talent in her simple movements. Se-hun is intrigued, asking if her job is restoring damaged enchantment formulas with these powders. He's starting to see the complexity of her department. The frying pan begins to glow with complex, golden runes as the enchantment takes hold. It's a surreal sight seeing such high-level magic on a common kitchen tool. Looking at her work in person, Se-hun thinks he's finally figured out the cause of her supposed slump. He realizes her standards are just way too high for standard academy tests. Helena is watching him from the doorway and notices his itching hands. She challenges him to give it a try, letting him use the forge. Sehun inspects the blade, noting that while it's dull, the edge is perfectly aligned. He recognizes the work of a skilled blade maker even in a piece of junk. Suddenly, Leah erupts with a joyful shout of "done" in the background, having finished her project. Sehun looks at the blade, thinking it's the best he can do for now, but vowing to do even better next time. Even a master can find room for improvement. Suddenly, Rikaros bursts through the door in his flashy pinstripe suit. He shouts for his sister, completely ruining the peaceful atmosphere. He stops mid-motion, his eyes widening as he takes a closer look at the blade's edge. He's a veteran warrior, so he can see the insane quality instantly. After a session of intense work, Sehun lets out a long exhale. He's satisfied for now, thinking the small adjustment should be enough to fix the balance. The rhythmic sound continues as Sehun focuses entirely on the microscopic edge. He's pouring all his experience into this one weapon. Sehun stands among his struggling classmates. He's acting humble, thinking his work is merely passable since he used cheap materials, but he's leagues ahead of everyone. They finally arrive at their destination, the aka Kalkuff Smithy. Leah pushes the door open with an energetic greeting. Helena immediately spots Sehun and asks if he's Leah's boyfriend, which gets an instant and hilarious denial. Sehun is just standing there with a literal anger vein on his forehead. Sehun looks at the pots and tools, realizing that Helena is a powerhouse hiding her true level. Even in a hardware shop, her craftsmanship is undeniable to someone like him. Leah starts rummaging through her supplies, letting out a triumphant shout when she finds the right material. Sehun is genuinely impressed, noting that being able to lose yourself completely in your work is a rare talent. He sees a bit of himself in her obsessive dedication. Helena tells him to just pick any item from the scrap pile and see what he can do. Sehun gives her a sharp look, realizing he's being put on the spot. He decides to use a whetstone with the most evenly compressed mana particles. He knows that to sharpen this edge to the absolute limit, he needs the perfect surface. Leah turns around and is startled to see Helena standing there. Helena tells them both to head out, clearing them from her workspace. She's cranky, but you can tell she's impressed. Helena tells him to keep it down because she has a massive backlog of orders. Rikaros is apparently looking for a specific kitchen knife. Rikaros is stunned, asking Helena if she sharpened this while drunk again because it's way too good. Helena denies it. From behind, we see Sehun silhouetted against the workshop light, completely absorbed in his work. He gives a small, confident smirk as he realizes his pre-regression skills are returning. He's starting to feel like his old self again, which is bad news for his enemies. Helena isn't fooled, noting that Sehun is the top student from this year's Borsapa department. She scoffs at Babel's standards, calling him a soft-looking brat. Sehun picks up a simple whetstone, thinking that if he gets to use a custom tool of this caliber, he might as well show off a little. Helena calls her a brat and notes that Leah tried to find a flaw in her junior but ended up getting put in her place by Sehun's own display of skill. Helena finally drops the bombshell. A freshman did it. Rikaros is completely floored, his jaw practically hitting the floor. Like and subscribe for more interesting stories. Comment below if you enjoy. Thanks for watching.